Here.
Katie Newton.
Here.
Mike Sherwood.
Yes.
Bree Woodward.
Here.
Paula Kane.
Yes.
Alyssa Kowalczyk. And Mary Ann Springer.
Here.
Thank you, Linda. Sean, you're in attendance. Could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Oh, that's why.
Stand up and start.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Sean. So in the organizational meeting, we'll move to agenda item number 4. It's the election of officers. And I would entertain a motion from the board for the chair position.
I would like to make that motion, and I would like to nominate the gentle lady to my right.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Just for specifics, that gentle lady is Katie.
Is Katie, that is right.
Seconded by Paul.
Second by Paul. Is there any discussion?
I've enjoyed working as her vice chair. I think we balance each other out. Our approaches are some of the time different. Our viewpoints are some of the time different, yet we've found an ability to work together, and I think to move the board forward in a direction that is greater for its strengths.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other discussion? Done?
Just say that, had Katie not, gotten that nomination and whatnot, I would have been nominating you, because I think that the poise, the intelligence, the commitment, that you've shown over time, the way you present yourself at district meetings, in this boardroom, whatnot, makes you very valuable to the board. I want you to know I have the confidence in you to do that.
As a former coach of mine, that means more to me than you can imagine. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Don.
jeez. I'm about to start tearing up.
Any other discussion on the motion? All right, by show of hands, I can say all in favor. Is there anyone opposed? Is there anyone wish to abstain? Okay. You all set there, Linda, with the count?
Yep.
All right.
I would have voted for myself. I would have.
You wouldn't have, you wouldn't have.
And then we would have told you can't do that.
Oh. I would have tried.
Well, thank you, everybody. Are you ready to hand it over to
Absolutely.
All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna open now for vice chair for nominations, and I would like to nominate Mr. Sherwood. As I said, we found a good groove and been good to work with. All right. Any other nominations for vice chair? All right, all those in favor?
Comments?
No.
Oh, no, comments come after?
No, you can go ahead and comment now if you want to.
He's had to listen to me for 2 years, probably more so than anyone else on this board. Should probably get a medal or some cash or something beyond that. So,
You gonna give it to him?
oh, yeah, puppy.
That's right.
And I'll just say, I like the fact that we have things we totally disagree on. And that's the way it should be. I think it's weird if you're just always agreeing with each other. And we've had a lot of conversations, and we've got a couple, and we don't see eye to eye on stuff, or you guys don't see eye to eye, but it always seems to work itself out. And I think that's the way it should be in this environment. Like, figure it out. Some friction. It's good.
Friction's good. All right, any other comments? All right, all those in favor? Opposed and abstain? One abstention. All right. Next is just stuff that we have to do every year, which is reappointment of district clerk, board recording secretary, and some other stuff. So if you have questions, we will answer them, but first thing is district clerk. Could I get a motion to nominate Heather Greenfield as district clerk?
Nominate Heather Greenfield for district clerk.
I have a motion by Shauna. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dawn. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstain. All right, moving on to school board recording secretary.
Make a motion to nominate Linda Mahoney as school board recording secretary.
Motion by Shauna. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mark. Any other discussion?
Thank you.
I just wanna make sure you still want it.
Yeah.
You've seen the sausage made.
I didn't check,
You're
but
not a
I assume
vegetarian
she's
now.
here,
Okay.
so.
All right. All those in favor? Opposed and abstain. All right, thanks you.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Kathy Beatty as the school treasurer.
I have a motion by Mark. Do I have a second?
But let's let Ms. Springer make her first second of the year.
She wants to.
Second.
Motion made by Mark, seconded by Ms. Springer. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Oppose and abstain. All right. Next is Assistant School Treasurer. Someone want to make a motion to nominate Deborah DeSimone as Assistant School Treasurer?
So moved.
Moved by Jack. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alyssa. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Oppose and abstain. One abstention. All right. This is under bank depository, but it's bonding. Someone will make a motion to bond school treasurer and assistant school treasurer in accordance with RSA 197:22 and policy DH.
So moved.
Moved by Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Shauna. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained.
I'd like to make a motion to designate TD Bank as a school district bank depository.
A motion by Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bree. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. All right, we got policy DFA procedure. Shauna, do you know off the top of your head what DFA?
Yep, DFA is a policy on investment, and then policy EI is risk management.
So before you move on, thank you so much for looking those up. Could I get a motion to reaffirm policies DFA and EI?
So moved.
Moved by Jack. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mark. He raised his hand quicker. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstain. Okay. And then in your packets, in your folders rather, you have policy BCA-R, which is the school board member ethics and expectations. We all have to sign it. If anybody wants to take a minute to look at it, can. But when you get done signing those, please send them back over here. Yeah, go ahead.
There's also a pen in your folder provided for you.
Oh, no.
When you are signing this document, if you could submit it to me before your departure this evening, that would be helpful. The document.
Oh,
The pen
You
is for,
mentioned
not
pen,
that bad,
so I was.
it's for efficiency's sake.
I thought it was because it had to be signed in black pen. I just signed it in blue.
I was thinking the same thing.
Oh, man. All right.
We can return it at the end, he said.
Okay. So the next one is our school board calendar. But it's what we do.
I can review
Yeah,
that
go ahead,
for you
please.
folks.
Yep.
So it's in your packet there, but it would start on August 14th. And again, it's the first and third Thursdays. There are 3 points of conflict. They're highlighted for you, where it would be on a different day of the week than a Thursday.
Would be a different day.
Yeah, so January 8th.
What is the reason for that?
It's got some conflicting, some things with some other pieces.
Okay.
They're longer months. There may be five in there, so. But those are the dates that would be different. But other than that, it would be stock and it would be what the board processed through this past year.
All right.
Sorry, quick question.
Yep, go ahead, Bree.
It says August 14th, that's the second Thursday, is that intentional?
Yeah, because it's coming off from the summer, I believe.
Okay, that's what I was just.
But we always reserve the right, if we feel like we need to, we can always schedule another meeting or move around. This is just saying this is what it's tentatively gonna be. Anyone wanna make a motion to approve the 25-26 school board calendar?
Move to approve the
Ooh.
25-26 school
She
board
beat you.
Whoa.
Marion beat you.
Oh.
My head was down.
I know. You wanna second it?
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Marion, seconded by Dawn. Any other discussion on the calendar? Again, it's tentative and we can move and we can add if we need. All right, all those in favor? Oppose and abstain. Okay. Right. So at this time, we are done with the reorganizational meeting. And we are gonna open up the regular school.
Need to make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Yes, make a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the organizational meeting on March 20th school board.
Motion made by Shauna, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alyssa. I'll give it to you.
Just not raising my hand.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. Okay, so the reorg meeting is closed at 7:10, and I'm gonna open up the regular business meeting at 7:11. All right, we already did the call to order. We have approval of minutes. We have public minutes for the March 6th, and then I believe we have some non-public, but we'll do the public ones first.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for March 6th.
A motion to approve the March 6th meeting minutes. Do I have a second? Second by Mark. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. 2 abstentions. Okay. Yeah, Paul and Marion. So you just get. Right.
I'll make a motion to accept the non-public meeting minutes for March 6th, 2025.
A motion by Shauna, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Bree. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. 2 abstentions, Paul. All right. Right, moving on. Delegates and individuals. Linda, do we have any others besides the one I have currently? Is this it? Okay. Mr. Sean O'Neill. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to discuss with you one of your agenda items that's later on in your program. With regards to the asking the board to waive policy for the purchase of a van. I can see this normally in some extenuating circumstances, but I think this is more of mindset. And one of the things that came with me is we had the quotes, part of the packets, has all the information on there. I literally put 10 minutes of effort into this. Call up and get a quote using the VIN number, which has all the same exact permutations of everything in there. And I can get it through the state bid to the town of Danville for about $3,000 less than that quote that you have, which is going through a normal retail channel with their dollar, discounts and all that other stuff. And the bottom number I have is $50,642 for the same exact thing, and you guys have $52,876. So you guys have staff that does this stuff, and it's just hard for me to get through that a purchasing of a vehicle would not automatically go through a normal sales channel that this district should have been utilizing for many, many years of buying through the state contracts. You're never going to beat them walking up to a dealership on your own as John Doe. Never. Use their buying power so that everybody on here can utilize that money in a more efficient manner and save the taxpayers dollars. I'll leave everything with the clerk, and I'll email you, Justin, all the details of everything. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. So, gonna get a motion to move the last 27 minutes of public comment, or delegates and individuals to the end of the meeting. Motion by Mara, do I have a second? Second by Shauna. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstain. Okay. Student rep.
Great. So starting off strong at the high school for updates tonight. We had a St. Patrick's Day staff breakfast on Monday morning put on by the National Honor Society to bring in food and drink for teachers and staff during that time. Applying to college has been something very popular with juniors and parents. So Parent Information Night is actually tonight in the PAC from 6 to 7, and kind of to meet about juniors also had meetings about kind of senior things and logging on to Naviance for college prep. On Saturday from 3 to 9 p.m. at the high school, the student council will be putting on another one of their kids' night out events for families. So kind of a full day of fun and games that these students are able to engage in with their peers. The junior class of 2026 had their junior semi this past Saturday from 6 to 9 p.m. And it was a super fun night full of great music, food, pictures, and dancing. And overall, some really great memories and a good fundraiser for their class. The junior class is also having their 3rd annual Spring Craft Fair on Saturday, April 5th, with over 30 vendors attending so far. So if you'd like to buy a table or kind of come support all of the public vendors, that is going to be on April 5th. So we encourage you to come see what is new. On Saturday, March 8th, the annual Project Hope Fashion Show took place, and the organization was proud to announce that as a school and outside community, we were able to raise over $16,000 for the fight against cancer, which amazing is an understatement for that. So the cheer team also secured a spot to the New England Championship, placing 3rd overall at D2s. And then Danielle Bates, sophomore, secured her spot as an All-American to represent Timberlane during her time at the New Balance National Meet, which was pretty incredible. And she was able to break the school record and her own personal record by over 2 inches in the high jump. The class of 2027 tomorrow night has a game show in the PAC, and it is a time for friends to question each other and how well they know each other in a game of Bays, Bros, and Besties as a fundraiser. They're very excited for that. And then kind of touching upon what Mr. Lena said in previous meetings when he came to present, the Youth Risk Behavioral Survey will be administered on March 25th to all students. At Atkinson Academy on March 12th, the 1st grade had moon viewing night where students and families were invited to the academy during after-school hours to view a full moon through high-tech telescopes. And this event was part of their moon unit, complete with students writing in it about their moon journals. On March 14th, the 4th grade had their wax museum where students chose a person of interest to them and wrote a report about it to present to their class. The students then dressed up as their chosen person to perform this role. And on March 18th was Kindergarten Parent Information Night, something that also happened throughout all the elementary schools, where they kind of welcome parents of incoming kindergartners for the 2025 to 2026 school year. And then on Friday, March 28th, there will be a lip sync battle at the Performing Arts Center for Atkinson students, and they'll be participating in this battle with their peers or individually as part of a group. And this event will be sponsored by the Night Owls, which is a parent group in the district. At Danville School, a special thank you to the PTA for providing popcorn to all students on St. Patrick's Day. And the pesky leprechaun snuck some edible green glitter onto the popcorn as well. So that was pretty sneaky. And Danville's 3rd grade students had a great field trip to the State House on Tuesday. They were even able to interact with Governor Kelly Ayotte and had the opportunity to take a photo with her as well. At Sandown North, Sandown's One School, One Book event has begun. They're all reading The Wild Robot Escapes. The feedback from the student, staff, and family members has been very positive, and everyone is really excited to be participating in this shared reading experience. Their after-school winter enrichment clubs are also finishing up in the next few weeks, and they're looking forward to planning for their spring sessions as well. And finally, something that Sandown North is excited to announce is that they have raised nearly $3,180 towards their $5,000 goal for the American Heart Association, with 1 week to go left in that fundraiser. And that is tonight's update. Thank you very much.
Right.
Can I ask Abigail one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you let the board know what you're doing with Dean in terms of putting like pictures and visuals to
Oh,
kind of
yes.
these updates, just so that they understand,
Yeah,
maybe
of
members of the
course.
community can understand what's happening?
Recently with Mr. Zanello, I've been fortunate enough to kind of start a little school board show. I know some other students are able to do this through sports updates, and I know also like weather updates too. So really utilizing our resources in the high school, I'm able to go in with Mr. Zanello and record some updates, kind of reflecting upon what I've talked about here, using pictures throughout the districts too as well to kind of articulate what's going on and kind of put those visuals up there. And I usually tomorrow, I think I'm going to go in with him and record it to kind of go on the social medias and on the Timberlane website. So that is something that I'm very excited to keep doing, and a recently addition also.
Thanks for
Well,
doing
thank you so much.
Right. Good stuff. All right. Current business election results. Were you taking this one?
I'd be happy to review the results. You've got the election results there in your packet. Article 1 was around school board, and we welcome Mary Ann Springer to the board from Danville. We welcome back Alyssa from Plastow. and Mark from Sandown. Article 2 was the operating budget, and that passed. Article 3 was the kindergarten warrant, the amendment for the article of agreement, including kindergarten, that also passed. Article 4 was the 2.5% tax cap, and again, that passed with revised language. Articles 5 and 6 both focused on the lease purchase agreement, both advisory only. Article 5 passed, Article 6 failed. Article 7 was with specific to the fund balance. That came out in an exact tie. That failed. There's also a recount tomorrow specific to Articles 2 and 7. Article 8 passed. Article 9 passed. 10, 11, 12, and 13. All those articles also passed. And those are the election results summary.
We just want to thank all the voters for getting out there and voting, and I don't think I've ever seen like a exact tie. I know. On a warrant article before.
Pretty remarkable.
We had one in Atkinson and they had to flip a coin for selectmen to see who got in.
So, I'm not from this area, so this election stuff is always just so interesting sometimes with that, so flipping the coin.
So if you didn't have elections, what did you have?
Well, we did. Well, we did. I mean, we had elections, but it wasn't like this. I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, yeah, you went and voted, but I'm not regretting my decision. It's just, it's interesting flipping a coin. All right.
To Katie's previous point, the voter turnout was really strong. It was as strong as it was last year. And those were the two strongest years that the district has had in quite a while. So we're having more people participate.
Yeah, hope that continues for sure, 100%. All right, next is the cooperative hockey team action item.
Mr. Fantasia, are you feeling well enough?
Yep.
All right.
No, I know, I'm just like.
Thank you, by the way.
Good evening.
Oh, good evening, folks. Just quickly through my executive summary, which I think you have, I'll just, for the viewers. The Timberlane Regional High School Hockey Program is looking to form a cooperative team with Pelham High School for the upcoming 25-26 school year through the next classification cycle, which would be the 26-27 and 27-28 years. Per the NHIA bylaw 4, section 9, applications for co-op teams need to be submitted to the NHIA for a hearing and final approval. I'm asking the school board for approval and to be provided with meeting minutes to include in our cooperative agreement application. We have the application filled out already, but we do need to include that. I should also state that Pelham also on April 2nd, their athletic director will be going to their school board to get their approval as well. And that will all be included in the packet. And so just again, just for a little context, based on the projected numbers from our school as well as Pelham, I think both schools would benefit from giving these kids an opportunity to play. And at the end of each season, per the bylaws, they can be revisited by both schools. So again, what I'm asking hopefully is your approval as a school board so that we can move forward.
So Jack raised his hand first, and it'll be Bree and Alyssa.
Angela, thanks for doing this. You know, I've always been a supporter of athletics and anything we can do to let these kids play, because I think there's been some years we haven't been able to field a team team. So thank you for doing this. I'd like to make a motion to move forward with this, unless Bree, unless you guys want to talk. I didn't know whether that was going to come before or after, but whatever. But thank you for doing this, and anything we can do in any sport to get kids on fields, on courts, I think is a great thing. So thank you.
My only question and I guess concern is with the statement that the student athletes for daily attendance, school discipline, et cetera, will be from the home schools. So you're having one team, but with two separate standards of whether they can play or how they're disciplined.
So one of the things that we will do, we will have a meeting. We have to get approval from the NHIA first and foremost. But when that happens, we will sit down and have both schools, both principals, athletic directors, talking about their school rules. Because again, while we're a cooperative team, you know, they have their district policies, we have our district policies, and we'll come together. Again, I don't know, haven't really had, other than the initial conversations with their athletic director. We haven't gotten into the weeds yet because we don't wanna put the cart before the horse. We wanna make sure that people are on board with this first. There's multiple cooperative teams in ice hockey. I would say unfortunately, but that's where we are right now in ice hockey. So these things will get worked out as we go. We are also, I should say to you, because we are the largest school, we would be the lead school. So everything that goes through would be submitted by me in terms of anything that's due, any forms that are due. Timberlane would take the lead on that.
Answer other questions, Bree. Alyssa?
Can you just elaborate a little more on the funding for this? I know you
Sure.
have a small paragraph in here, but if you can just elaborate.
So one of the things that we will do, again, I'm trying to go slow, but I've done some research from other cooperative teams. I know when I talked to a certain athletic director, what she told me is that as the lead school, we operate like business as usual, like we did this year. We pay the bills, we do everything that we gotta do at the end of the season. Based on the roster, what they did is 2/3 of the kids were from her school. So 2/3 of the cost, and then at the end of the season, you know, she tallies up everything, the transportation, the officials, the coaches, all that stuff, the ice times, and then gets a reimbursement check from the second school. Because as she said, and she's been doing this for a while, and I have great respect for Lisa Chingris of Nashua, put a plug in for her. It's easier to do it the way you normally do it than to try to do it, you know, I need money now for this and that. So that's, we would definitely do what we always do. And then we would contact them. And that agreement would be in place before we started. It wouldn't be a surprise to Pelham, you know, at all.
That was my next question.
Yeah, it would not be a surprise to anybody. We don't wanna do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Dawn? And then Marion.
Couple things, because, you know, we've looked at these things before, you know,
We have.
then there's some changes here and there with the club, the team. Numbers, do you anticipate enough for a junior varsity level between the two schools? So will there be cuts to get to?
There won't be cuts.
There won't be cuts.
There won't be
Excellent.
cuts.
And coaching, is there,
We would keep our coach.
you would keep?
They are, in essence, at this point in time, Pelham used to be with Nashua, one of the Nashua schools, just to give you a little history. Pelham was co-oping with Nashua. Nashua North and Nashua South have been granted permission from the NHIAA to combine, which means Pelham is out. So Pelham doesn't have a place to play right now. And they've got, you know, according to their athletic director, projected maybe about 5 or 6 kids. They wouldn't be able to play hockey. We have a need that we could use those kids. Bringing them along would probably put us back where we started this year with our numbers, kind of in the high teens. So, and again, it's more about giving kids an opportunity to play, and this would benefit both schools.
Do we have a goalie?
What are you thinking about jumping in?
My coach will tell you that we have a goalie, I guess. And, but I will say to the rest of the group, that is one thing with ice hockey. There are times, and we've had years
Yeah.
where we didn't have a goalie and
10 years
someone,
ago.
you know, decided, hey, I'll volunteer. The kid wound up being pretty good, but that's just part of the game with hockey.
Marion?
So I'm new to the board and not familiar with the hockey program. Do we currently have a JV and a varsity team?
We do not, we just have a
Just one
varsity
team.
team. In fact, I was at the NHIA today for an ice hockey meeting of all schools around the state. There are very few right now JV hockey teams. The state of ice hockey in New Hampshire has been this way for a while. The numbers are down. That's why you see more co-op teams right now. And I will tell you that the co-op situation by the NHIA standards is a temporary thing. It's not made to, you know, continue on. It's to keep people playing for a little bit, get back on your feet, get back on your own. But yeah, there's not a lot of JV teams. And that was part of the discussion today because people felt like, how do we, to those that do have JV teams, how do they make it a worthwhile experience for those kids? So that was another piece that they were talking about.
And I also don't know what, if any, district funding is provided to the hockey team. Will it, if there is any, will that be likely to go up, down, or stay about the same?
Do you mean?
What the district pays for the hockey program? I don't know who pays
So
for what.
the district supplies, we pay for ice time, which is never gonna go down anymore, I'll tell you that. But we pay for ice time, we pay for transportation, we pay for the officials and the coaches. But that's kind of what we've always been able to do. And like I said, it's standard. I think the hardest problem in ice hockey, other than the population situation, is getting rinks. There's so few rinks, and we're all arguing and fighting over trying to find a rink. You've been with me a long time, the ice center is not really giving us a lot of time anymore, so, but again, it's just that, it's the challenges, but at the end of the day, we just want these kids to play, so we all kind of brainstorm together.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just
And
like
then
kind of
Shauna.
to add on what you're saying, like from an athlete's perspective, I feel like it could not only help Timberlane, but also assist to Pelham too, if it sounds like there's only like 5 kids. I don't know, if I was playing, I'd be kind of sad if I didn't have a team to kind of foster those relationships. I mean, I've met a lot of friends who play sports in other schools, and I feel like playing with them would kind of go beyond the sport. So kind of adding on, I feel like it could probably only help us and help schools like Pelham who are maybe struggling with that.
And as a life of an owl leader, I would like to change places with you, and I'll just go back.
Shauna, and then Jack had something he wanted to say.
Obviously, I know Mr. Sabia thanked you, and I echo that sentiment too, but there's a group of parents that are here in the room too that have had a lot of legwork and a lot of advocacy related to this. I've spoken with some of them and, directed them your way, and I'm just really pleased that in our community, so many people are working together to keep kids active and connected to their school. So thank you all.
If I could, just for a second, and obviously thank you to the parents and to the coaches and to the kids. I think you should really know, the hockey team, there's been struggles, there's been challenges, and I am so proud of the way they finished this year. They won their last 3 games in a row. And more important than the winning and the losing, because I tell the kids this all the time, and the coaches, the resiliency that they display. They go out there and play as hard as they can every single day. And as I keep telling them, they really represent Timberlane really well. And the parents, same thing. But Timberlane has a great reputation because of parents and the kids and the coaches. And I was so happy for them the way they finished, and they were so excited. So
Jack, and then Alyssa, and then Bree.
I'll keep it short then. Is it fair to say, Angela, we lose, and it's not just with hockey, but I've seen it in baseball, other sports. Students leave specifically for sports. I think that's a fair.
yeah, I think that's something in today's society where
And the lack of assets. I mean, I remember 1976 being the first guy doing high school, new front doors, and it was a brand new ice skating rink when you walk through the doors. Assets keep kids.
we've been using their rinks, Jack, just so you know.
So, I won't say I had a lot to do with it, but my dad did. So anyways, again, thank you, Angela.
And that's true, and hockey's probably the worst, because in 2016, we had a bunch of great hockey players in Timberlane District, and they all went to Central Catholic, Tilton, into Brooks, to Governors, and club. You got the Spartans and the Cyclones right down the street, like an Avalanche. I mean, there's a bunch of kids. I coached hockey when my son was 15, and then he went off to Central Catholic. But it's tough. It's a tough gig to keep all the high schools. Like Minnesota's the only state that's pulled off a legitimate, public high school, and everybody stays and they stay in their town. It's just like a wonderful hockey community. Most other states it's gotten thinned out by clubs, by private schools, by a whole bunch of different things. So that's true.
Alyssa, Bree, and then Donna, you want to say something?
I was just gonna follow up on Paul's remark,
Do you want to follow up now? It's okay if you want
I was talking.
to. No, you're fine.
It's troublesome when you have this type of a conflict where, you don't have a season that's the school season. You don't see this happening in many sports, really. I mean, you have the school season, everybody wants to play, look at soccer, you play all around the rest of the year, but they play for their school team in the season, football, wrestling, right down the road, all these sports. And I think it's a casualty that which the NHIA and whether it's Seacoast groups or whatever would get together and map out something that didn't take away from public schools. It's sinful.
Like I said, Minnesota's really the one that's really nailed that. There's one of a few.
Listen,
I know this is labeled as specifically a boys ice hockey team. We don't have a girls hockey team?
We do not have a
We do
girls-
not,
we
and I
don't-
assume Pelham does not
No.
as well.
But we do have females on the team.
That was my next
We do.
question. Do we allow the females onto this team?
We
Okay.
do. We had 2 this season.
And do we still call it the boys ice hockey
We
team?
call it co-ed.
Okay, just curious. Is Pelham bringing on any female
To
players?
my knowledge, no,
Or
but
is it-
we, again, we
okay.
haven't gotten into real personnel.
But they will be allowed to bring on female players? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify to Marianne's comment. I believe that budgetarily, we would be in the same position as this year, but then we would actually get money from Pelham, so we would improve.
In theory, yeah.
Great.
Mark,
Like to make a motion to approve forming a cooperative team with Pelham High School for boys/girls co-ed. Can we change that language?
The problem, just so that you know, the problem is the NHIA is gonna tell you to say boys because they do have girls ice hockey. So there are schools that have
Understood.
specific girls.
Like to make a motion to approve forming a cooperative team with Pelham High School for boys hockey that will compete in Division II starting in 2025 to 26, school year through 2026, 2027, 2027, 2028 cycle. Would it be appropriate to say with the understanding that that women would be allowed to participate as part of the motion?
Could be whatever you want it to be.
That's what I wanted
It's
to
your
be.
motion.
I'll second the motion.
alright, Mark made the motion, Shauna seconded. Linda, we have the wording here if you need help. We have wording here if you need
No, I
help.
know, but
Okay,
Mark added on outside of that.
are you good with what he added? Alright, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on this? Alright, all those in favor? Opposed and abstain. Alright, thank you.
Thank you. I
Thank
do
you.
have one more before I forget.
Yep.
I have one more approval ask of you. And the start of the school year, I came to this board and I asked for booster groups that wanted to use signed sponsorships
So
during
is this
their
the track
season.
boosters?
This is the track boosters.
our
who
next
was-
agenda item.
They were not included. They had not told me that they were planning, and then about 2 weeks ago, I was asked, and I said, well, there's a process and a procedure, so I wanted to come here and bring that to you, that the track boosters would like your approval to do that as well.
Absolutely.
Sure would.
I would like to make a motion in accordance with policy KJA to approve the spring track booster sign sponsorship request.
A motion by Mark, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alyssa. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed or abstain?
Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate the
Thank
time.
You.
Good luck with the cooperative hockey team. Okay, co-ed. Even though it says boys, co-ed. All
Yeah,
right,
make sure.
elementary enrollment update. Hello, Lucy.
So it's like a holiday. Today marks the first of the enrollment updates.
All right.
What it feels like. So in your packet, you have a two-sided document or 2 pages. The first page shows enrollment projected for grades 1 through 5. What I'd like you to do is consider this your baseline. Okay. As of last week, exactly how many students we have in the previous grade currently just rolled up. So this will be what we reference every time we come back to an enrollment update and we look at withdrawals and enrollments and changes to those numbers. On the backside or the second page in your document there, you will see early childhood programs. These are the numbers that were put in prior to registration opening on Friday. So again, these are current numbers rolled up to the next year. I can tell you that we've been open for 5 days now. We have 117 registrations district-wide across preschool through kindergarten. We're actively tracking that. We just finished tonight Pollard's kindergarten information night, which was the last of the 4 schools this week. So we have been engaging with families and welcoming children to our schools. And so those numbers you'll see next time reflected with some significant increases.
Why is the Danville and Pollard School preschool, why is it grayed out?
Because Danville and Pollard don't run a preschool program.
Any questions for Lucy? And again, this is just baseline, one of many.
So,
Yep, Paul.
so it looks like we're projecting some overages, like, the projected classes, like, so grade 3 Danville example, 2 classes, 22, class size by policy is 22, they're both full. So any additions to that would be a discussion, correct? And the same thing as grade 2 Pollard, is that what I'm saying?
Correct. So what you see are just the numbers right now, 44 kids in Danville are in 2nd grade. So using our policy, that's just what you see for next year right now, again, as a baseline to start.
So in addition to baseline, if I'm hearing that correctly, you have 100 and something registrations in addition to baseline?
Preschool through kindergarten.
Preschool
So
through
that's the second side.
Could
And
you,
then-
just for the future, add one more column of how many staff we have currently in each grade at each school?
Yeah, so if you remember, the reports change over time. Right now, we're not presenting staffing reports, we're only reporting on enrollment. So as we get closer and closer and other decisions are made, you'll see that the report changes format.
But right now, it's just the students.
Just splitting up the numbers right now.
Marion.
How frequent are your updates?
Very, I'm here at least once a month.
Okay.
And sometimes when we have things to report, we'll throw that in.
Any other questions for Lucy at this time?
Which grade was it that we had an issue with? It was Danville, correct?
That we added?
That we had an overage. What grade was that, does I?
Current 5.
The current 5, okay, so they're not on this because they're gonna be up at the middle school. Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy.
All right, AP Psychology textbook, first read. Hello,
Evening.
good evening.
So in your packets, I believe you have my executive summary. In accordance with policy IJJ, this is for textbook selection and adoption. I am asking the board to formally adopt the textbook Myers Psychology for the AP course. So if you remember back when I presented the program of studies, the board determined to run AP Psychology in the 25-26 school year. As part of that, we have now gone through the process of selecting a textbook for that course. We've brought it to Curriculum and Assessment Committee. And so now formally I'm bringing it to this group to ask the group to formally adopt that textbook.
Great.
Historically, I feel AP has lower enrollment. Do you have a projected enrollment or?
So
I just feel like 30 is a lot.
So as of right now, there are 23 students requesting that class for next year.
Oh, wow.
Okay, that's good news.
Alyssa.
Talk to me about how, because I see that you have physical textbooks and then there's also digital licenses for them. I'm assuming they're gonna be doing a combination of using both the physical textbook plus the digital. Like, talk to me about how that works. Is it more than one and the other, or?
So it's both are available to students. The teacher has sort of the option of whether it's send the textbook home, keep the textbook in the classroom, have the digital resource. The digital resource provides more than just a sort of a digital copy of the textbook. There's additional resources available to students with that digital resource. It's not really just a copy. There's more to it than just that. The teacher, as of right now, I believe they are planning on sort of using both as a resource for the students. I believe the textbook might, I don't want to misquote and say exactly which way they're going to go with it, but both are available. The nice thing about this is that It does span that 10 years for the AP requirement, if you will. Like AP asks us to look at our textbooks every 10 years. So with the copyright of 2024, it sort of buys us a solid amount of time with that digital resource for a 6-year time period.
And does the digital license come with the textbook, or is that a separate cost
It's a
from
separate-
paying for the physical, or is it?
It is a separate cost, so in this, we had looked at others that the textbook and the digital came together. But we decided not to go with that textbook, a different, textbook author, a different publisher. There is a separate cost between the physical textbook and the digital license. But the value of this textbook overrode, the value of that other textbook. And the teacher and the selection committee wanted to go with this textbook.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
In that case, I'd like to make a motion to approve for the first read of Myers Psychology for the AP course textbook for the TRHS AP Psychology course.
Motion by Mark, do I have a second? Second by Dawn, any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained, all right.
Do you have a
Thank
copy
you.
if anyone would like to do some reading over the next couple
No
weeks?
thanks.
Yeah, we're the size of it. Bree and I actually wanna see that.
Let me get you a backpack to put that in.
Yeah, right?
Looks like my nursing textbooks from college. God.
Bringing back bad memories.
Yes, it is.
All right, next is request for single source vendor, utility van purchase.
Could I have Dr. Martin walk us through those details?
Please.
So we have a vehicle replacement schedule in the facilities division that we are moving away from for next year. But for this year, now that we have a full complement of our mechanical team and technicians, which is amazing, we actually have an HVAC person on staff, and his shift conflicts with the HVAC person that's driving the 2016. So we have money allocated in our budget, approved by the board, for the purchase of an additional van. We put out to bid for this van, and we use the Savannah, the GMC model, the Ford, and the ProMaster. We asked for that in the bidding process. We did not receive any bids in the process, and I asked our new facilities director, who had been on board for a couple of weeks, to please go out and solicit some quotes for vans. He did. It was within our budget, as you see before you, the 52,876. We called again today to make sure that number is still a real number. I also have made some calls, and I did make calls to commercial dealers. Crosstown Chrysler Dodge in Littleton was 53,140, same specs on the vehicle. And actually, new car in Tilton had a 2024, brand new, for 57,24. I will admit to not knowing the state purchasing, how to secure through state purchasing. When we know better, we do better, and I appreciate the individual that came forward with some information for us. There was no nefarious intent on my part to waste taxpayer dollar. It was our first attempt with my facilities director to begin chipping away at the numerous bids that have to be put out. There are about 25 bids that we need to put out before the end of the year. So I will do as the board instructs.
So now that we know about the government thing to do, would it be better to, you all have done a lot of work in getting bids and quotes and stuff like that, but usually those entities, you can get them a little cheaper. So would it be better maybe to try that and then see, or is it too late?
I don't see it as being too late. I don't know how long that process takes. The two HVAC technicians can continue to share a vehicle or borrow a vehicle. And if you don't understand how this works, like our electrical guy, his truck is all set up with bins for electrical and all the materials, it makes them more efficient. Same thing with our general folks and our HVAC folks. But I serve at the pleasure of the superintendent and the board's direction.
Shauna, then Mark.
Would it, since we have some preliminary numbers here, would it be fair to potentially look into using that resource that was recommended this evening?
Sure.
And giving us an update at the next board meeting in 2 weeks in terms of if it was a lengthy process?
Sure.
And an update to some of these numbers from the dealer as well, so that we can
Absolutely.
make a move on a decision
We're not sure that
timely?
the chair's permission, if I may, we're not sure if the $3,000 rebate will continue beyond the month of March.
Right.
That the dealer told us that today. But if it doesn't, it doesn't, and we'll adjust.
I was going to say something similar to Shauna, and again, the recognition that the joke was made earlier that this is Justin's second dance with the board, something to that effect. We've had a lot of turnover, including, in the community that you oversee as well. This is a learning opportunity. Let's learn from it, move forward, do the research, we'll do the right thing.
Jack.
So I'm still struggling with getting a 5th van. We have 4 vans, 2 pickup trucks. That's a lot of, how many people use those vehicles?
So if I may, Madam Chair, the mechanical team is unable to use a pickup truck the way their work is designed. They have carts with all of their tools on them that come out of the truck that they can wheel into each of our buildings. They have all of their supplies. I'm not gonna make these stuff up. They have all these supplies in bins ready to go.
I get it.
Okay.
I've seen them.
And when our grounds, when it's time to cut lawn and pick the stuff up, the other trucks are in use.
I just, from everything that I understand and know, I just can't believe the 2 people can't work, because a lot of times those guys are working together in the same buildings. A lot of times, you can coordinate. I can't believe that those guys, are they always on the same schedule? Or they all both work the day shift?
No, we have a night shift, Madam Chair, if I may, we have a night shift person and we have a day shift person, and their schedules overlap.
So how much do they overlap?
I can't answer that right now.
Okay, so I've driven by and seen those 4 vans out there for a year, and I'm just like, it's almost like everyone gets a company car. And personally, if one of them needs to be replaced, we're not replacing one, right? Are we getting rid
We
of
are
one to
not.
get one?
We are not replacing a van, no, we are adding to the fleet.
I'm just struggling with that, especially after what we just went through in the elections and hearing loudly from the voters. I've always supported doing things as efficiently as possible, and if it means making an investment, that's fine. But if we're talking an hour or 2 overlap between 2 employees for an additional vehicle, we're all big people. They can schedule that and work it up. Just my opinion.
I think it was within the last 6 months, there was an issue at one of the elementary schools, and there was the ride sharing going on, and literally they could not get people. Somebody had to leave from maybe it was Pollard to go to Danville and then pick up stuff. They didn't have the stuff because it wasn't their van, then come back to the campus, get the stuff, then pick the person up. So you're aware of this as well. So whenever you have 2 discrete professions sharing the same vehicle, covering 6 different buildings, that's an inefficiency. And as we have the potential of not having the staffing levels that perhaps would be optimal, maybe saving their time in the commute would be something. We're looking at a 2014, 2016. These are not spring chicken vehicles that we currently have, so there's not even a guarantee that the 90,000 mile vehicle.
Their usage is around campuses. They're not being driven long distances. And my understanding of this, unless I misunderstand it, is that we now have the second HVAC guy, right?
We have a full-time HVAC guy on the first shift.
Right, so this particular scenario is new to us with the additional employee, right?
We had Madam Chair, we had a full-time first shift HVAC person at one time. It's not a completely new scenario, but if I may also add, the evening individual does a lot of PM work. And the daytime person is doing some very technical adjustments to our HVAC systems.
What's PM work? If you don't.
Preventative maintenance.
Thank you.
So filters, cleaning, mini splits, things of that nature. And there's a lot.
Alright, so it sounds like, because we know about the government site, that, we want, as a board, we want to at least let them check that out and then bring back to us for the next to have action.
I can do that.
We'll-
We can do that.
Yep, okay, cool. Thank you, thank you. Alright, title change. I know we keep calling him facilities director, but that's not the name.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to explain yes, so when we were SAU 55, we had a facilities director. When it became SAU 106 shortly thereafter, I'm telling stories now, this is what I hear. Shortly thereafter, a new facilities person was hired here, and there was a title change that went to the board in April of 2021 to Director of Plant Operations. However, in the Infinite Vision system for HR and financials, it still said facilities director. So when I posted the job, I've posted facilities director. So that created a kerfuffle. And in order to be in alignment with the majority of school districts in the state, I request that the board return the title to facilities director.
I'd like to make that motion to approve the change in title from Director of Plant Operations to Director of Facilities.
Can I second that, please?
Motion made by Mark, seconded by Jack. Any other discussion? Alright, all those in favor? Opposed and abstained. Alright, thank you. That was easy. Ooh, set graduation day, alright.
So in your packets, you have a copy of the previously approved this year's school calendar with our final day of school being an early release day on June 19th, which is a Thursday. By law, based on minimum standards, seniors may not graduate any more than 5 school days prior to the last day of school for all other students. Or not school days, sorry, it is school days, not calendar days. That's what I was trying to be specific about. So based on that, we are recommending the graduation date of Saturday, June 14th as the date of graduation for the senior class this year. By approving that, that allows us at high school to begin planning, notifying families, sending out notifications so that they can invite their extended families, loved ones, friends to come and celebrate with our seniors. So we are looking for approval for that date.
And I know we've already had a couple snow days, but even though the season's winding down, I know we could have the oddity of
We
April
have,
blizzard or
and
anything. So are we
so-
still good with, even if we take some snow days, are we still good?
We would be good as long as that last day of school did not extend beyond Friday. Get moved one more, we would be good with that 5-day window, yes.
Any questions about the graduation day? Shauna?
When, is there a deadline or date to determine whether or not we have to count hours versus school days?
There is no deadline. It is, schools have the ability to change to an hourly calculation. This agenda item specifically is with regard to the graduation date, not the final day of school. We will likely be coming back to the board at a future date to bring the hourly calculations. We'll have to talk as a leadership team. It has happened in the past that we have had snow days that have extended into March. In past years, we are very, he would love to go skiing. The majority of us would prefer to not have that happen. So
Wait for the snow to be gone.
he'd prefer for the snow to come. So we will likely be coming to you, but there is no deadline. We talked about this in past years, but we exceed the minimum standard of the number of hours that we were allowed to calculate per level by the state standard. But based on that minimum standard, we have a fair amount of a buffer that we could go as many as 6 or 8 school days of cancellation. And if we shift to hourly calculations, we would be fine with our current end of school year date.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah,
That
we
was
will
my
come back.
understanding, but okay.
We'll definitely be coming back with more detailed information regarding hourly calculations, our recommendation as to whether or not we add an instructional day or stay where we are and shift to hours. For now, we are just looking to get approval for the graduation date so that the high school can begin that planning.
Yep, go ahead.
Is there a rain date scheduled?
There is, I do not have that in front of me. Was that shared with you by the high school?
The Sunday.
Yes.
The day after.
Typically it is. There, years ago, we used to do Friday evenings and it used to be Saturday morning was the rain date. Now that we do it Saturday morning,
What we move it back inside.
or we would move it inside. That's actually, you're
Yes.
very right. We would move it into the pack. And the impact on that is that the number of tickets and the number of attendees who can be in the pack is limited to typically 2 per student. But we typically will open other spaces on campus and be able to broadcast it on television in spaces where that's an option. It's not ideal, but what we would do.
Make a motion to approve the 2025 graduation date to June 14th, 2025.
I have a motion made by Shauna. Do I have a second? Second by Marion. Any other discussion on the graduation date? Alright, all those in favor? Opposed and abstain. Miss Shauna will be abstaining. She okay?
No, Alyssa.
Alyssa, not Shauna, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Is it the budget to actual report?
So we're on letter I, so budget to actual report. Before Ms. Watkins walks us through this, I wanted to just to inform the board. Maria has been thinking really hard about how to communicate the financial information that's posted on the district website every month. What we have committed to is that this will be an agenda item that reads budget to actual informational at the second meeting of every month. These are visuals that Maria has put together that she'll walk us through tonight to try to summarize the large pieces of the financial information tracking throughout the school year. And we would want to bring this back monthly to you with current numbers for that month to be able to talk through and keep the board informed of the financial health of the organization. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to allow Maria an opportunity to explain what we're seeing. We had previously circulated this to the board for feedback and input in terms of how we wanted the visuals displayed. So we're also could engage in some of that discussion tonight as well. But let's have Maria walk us through and learn about what's here, and we can make any discussion or improvements moving forward in the next month in April. Appreciate it.
Good evening. As Justin said, yes, it's a work in progress. I welcome any feedback. If there's anything else that you wanna see, obviously we're trying to keep everything in one page for easy view and easy exposure to the financials. In the top portion, the top row, you have the fiscal 24 to fiscal 25 actual as of the month comparison. Then the middle section, you have fiscal year 25 actual to budget comparison. The third section, which is the chart, it has the monthly expenses for fiscal 2024 actual compared to the fiscal 2025 actual as of February, and then the projections that we have for the last 4 months of the year. So that chart portion compares the fiscal 2024 actuals to the projections for 2025. And then at the bottom, I included 3 metrics that seem to be coming up frequently, not only by the school board, but also by employees. We get a lot of right to knows about these metrics. So I thought it will be useful and important to share that as we go every month. So starting at the top, the first graph presents the revenue and expenses both as of the end of February, comparing fiscal year 2024 on the left and fiscal year 2024 on the right. As you can see, in the revenue side, we have received $6.7 million less than we had received as of February of 2024. On the right side, we have the expenses. As you can see, we have spent about $7.5 million more than we had spent as of February of 2024. In the next 2 charts are.
Just ask a question. So that's a swing of roughly $13,500,000.
Yeah, so we are.
Okay.
lower in revenue and higher in expense. In the next two graphs, you can see by month, the comparison by month for each revenue and expenses. As you know, especially for revenue, obviously it's cyclical because we do work with our towns and we accommodate a better cycle for them because we understand their revenue is very cyclical. When taxpayers pay their taxes is when they receive the funds. So then we work with them on the schedule that we have with them is based on the cycle that towns face. So obviously that is reflected in the way we receive our revenue. And then the expenses, is if you see that obviously in January is a big variance there. We had in the month of January this year, we had 3 pay periods. Last year that happened in September and March. So when the March actual comes, we will be up to having the 2-3 pay period months throughout the year. I don't know if you have any questions about those two numbers. I also want to bring to your attention that the revenue, there are two of our towns that are behind in their payments. So that could be, that is also a portion of the low revenue that we have received. The total of those two towns is $4.1 million. Plasto has not submitted their payment for January and February. That's $3 million, and Sandan hasn't submitted their February payment. That's $1.1 million. So that is $4.1 million of that variance of 6.7.
Anybody have any questions about this top chart before she moves on? And you can ask questions later, but just right now. Yeah, Marian, go ahead.
So in terms of the revenue, besides the town revenue, there's also some state revenue. Does that come at the same time each year, or is that monthly?
Yes, so this is inclusive of the adequacy aid. The adequacy aid, we get 2 payments a year, and it is reflected here. It's reflected in that actual of 59.
Okay.
Actually, in the second, I will talk more in the second portion. I have it without how much is each of the. So
hold on a second, Marian.
So let's say we get some type of grant, would that be recorded under the revenue section?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, any funds. Well, actually, let me say that this is as the title says, these financials are for the general fund. So as you know, we have more than 3, but the 3 main funds are the general funds, the grants fund, and the food service fund. Any grant funding that we receive has to be recorded under the grant fund, which is not included in these financials. The grant fund has its own fund, so everything, all revenue and expenses related to grants get recorded under that fund. The second portion, like I said, it compares budget to actual for fiscal year 2025. Revenue, we are at 72% of the expected revenue of 73.3 million. And in expenses, we are at 52% of the total budget of 91.9 million. Now, here I want to make a remark that even though the budget is 91.9 million, we are only expecting to receive 73.3 million in revenue. That is, the second chart then breaks down the actual revenue that we have received for the year. That's $52.7 million. 82% of that revenue is from the towns, the taxpayers. 15.4% of that revenue is state and federal. And then 2.2% is the local revenue, the small portion of revenue that we receive locally.
Real fast question, if the 2 towns that are a little bit delayed, if were to make a payment tomorrow or 5 minutes before you printed this chart out, the expected revenue, do you have a feeling as to where that would be percentage wise?
Yes, if we have received those, it will be $4.1 million more in revenue. So that will put us at 4%.
56.8. Okay, cool.
4.1, yeah. And then the last graph on that middle section is the actual expenses. 44% of the expenses are related to salaries. 29% of the expenses are related to benefits. And then 26% is related to operating expenses. So the salaries and benefits portion is 35.5 million, which is almost 74% of the total expenses. So February. Do you have any questions? Good. So the third section is the chart that I said compares basically the annual projection to the prior year actuals. As you can see, I mark in red those months that I mentioned previously that have 3 pay periods in each month. You can notice that in this year, that first pay period that had 3 months was lower compared to last year. That is because it happened to be in August, and our teachers do not get paid in August. So most of our teachers, I will correct that, most of our teachers don't get paid in August because teachers get paid for 5 pay periods in the month of June, and they don't get paid in July and August. So that is why this year was lower, that 3 pay period month. But as you can see, we had in January, we had the 8.6 million pay month that included the 3 pay periods compared to the 8.3 of last year in March. So what I also want to bring to your attention in this comparison is I put the percentage as a total in each of the years, because as you can see, it is pretty cyclical. So we have the 2 months that have 3 payrolls are obviously higher, and everything else is about 8% every month. We spend about 8% of our budget. In the projections below, if you can see, we're following the same pattern. In September, October, November, and December, we have the 8%, about 8% of the expenses. And then for the projections for March, April, and May, we are projecting, or we did a straight line projection of 8% as well for those 3 months, which is again following the patterns that we had seen in the past. And then in June, because we, like I said, we have 5 payrolls for our teachers, is usually the highest month of the year at about 50%. So if that follows through, we are expecting to have $79.4 million in expenses for this year for the general fund. That is a $7.5 million increase compared to the actuals of last year.
General fund, just general fund. I have to say, there's an extraordinarily a large amount of information here that's presented in a visual format that even I could understand initially, so well done.
Thank you.
Yes, that was a compliment. It came off odd, but that was a compliment.
I just think that posting the reports that we post every month, I know there's a number of people that look at them, but I don't think this is a friendly report that tells the story. So that's what I'm trying to do with this format. Maybe it will be more friendly and easy to read and easy to understand.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Shauna, and then Marion.
I understand this, or I want to explain my understanding and just clarify and verify here. When you're talking about 5 payrolls in June, what you're really saying is, right, so this is how the teacher's contract works, is that they get paid for their school year, starting in September, ends in June, but our new fiscal year starts July 1. So we have to expend the salary fund line in that month of June, which is why the payroll in the month of June is higher, because we're dividing the number of pay periods that they get paid out and paying them the remaining number according to the contract.
So
Just want to clarify that.
They don't get paid in July and August, so that's 4 pay periods that they don't receive a pay. So we catch up in the month of June and pay the month of June payroll and the 4th from the summer months.
And then our fiscal year starts July 1.
July 1st.
So then the books are essentially where they need to be. Thank you.
Marion, and then you can after Marion. Go ahead. Bree.
So you keep mentioning pay periods on the, is it bar line? So is this just salary numbers or is this
No,
all
this
of
is everything. This
everything?
is not
Okay.
just salaries, just because those months are higher, usually a question comes up, well, what happened
Yep.
here? So that's why I
Okay.
highlight them and proactively provide information that that's the reason
But
why.
let's say just because I'm on the committee, a CIP project goes in, it would be an expense in that line,
Yes,
like if an RFP was. Okay.
yes,
Any-
it encompasses everything,
Okay.
operating, salaries, benefits, and operating expenses.
Marion, and then Don. You sure? Okay.
Yeah, so I think this is a very good presentation of the information and very informative, like who said that? Mark said.
Don't read
I
it.
would have just one suggestion that at these meetings, could it be projected
Yeah,
on the
we
screen
need to put it on the screen.
for those who don't have it in front of them? Cause there's so much information and I think it's very helpful.
Absolutely, yes, thank you for the feedback, I can definitely send that to you.
And if I could also as well, it will also be posted in the board packet that's available for people online as well. But yes, we can talk with Dean in terms of broadcasting it here too.
Jack.
And then, oh, I'm so sorry. Let's see.
Cool. Go
Sorry.
ahead. No, ladies before gentlemen.
No, I was going to move forward, but
Oh, okay.
I didn't
Well,
see that you
Then
raised your hand, sorry.
Then I'll be glad to interrupt you. No. So when I looked at the first box and I said, you know, my initial reaction is there was a $13 million difference this year over last year. But then as I get over to the third box, and you brought up the fact that we haven't received payments from two of the towns, that's a really awful, am I to assume that on the revenue thing on the first one, that that's year to date, but it doesn't incorporate the two anticipated revenues from those two towns?
Yes, and that's
So
why I
there's really
said.
not a $13 million difference in
No.
my mind.
So the
There's-
revenue was
Right.
$6.7 million difference. As I mentioned, 4.1
Right.
is attributed to two towns being, not have submitted their payments.
Yeah, I'm just saying my gut instinct was to look at this and say, we're tracking $13 million off of last year, but not really because. you know,
Checks in the
And
mail.
that's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, thank you,
That's why I said it's separate.
thank you.
It's also, I think, a great example, Jack, of why numbers need context and why
Yeah.
when we bring these to the board, it should encroach discussion.
I asked the question so I know that I'm understanding it and bring that to light a little.
Thank you.
I think it's good though, this is very good.
Then moving to the last portion, as of February 28, we have 224 students in our district in all 7 schools. We have 619 current employees, and we have 75 contractors.
And we'll be updating those numbers as well every month as they come forward to the board, because they obviously have an impact on the financial health of the organization.
Can I just make a comment? So when you look at all those numbers, it's 4,000 people. And that means 4,000 people a day, every day, all day long are using these facilities. So when we talk about the impact and the fiscal impact that it has on keeping up and maintenance and everything, imagine if you had 4,000 people using the buildings every single day, to put it into context. Fair enough?
Very fair enough, yes, thank you for that comment.
Think of these big
Paul
towns.
and then Bree.
I was just speaking for the average person that I talked to, they'd wanna see a projection of surplus or not on here somewhere as we go towards June 30th, you know what I'm saying? Like, 'cause like last year, we were pretty much expecting $11.5 million in that neighborhood. And then for legitimate reasons, it came in a little higher than we thought with more revenue and, I think that's what people would wanna see. If we're gonna show this, that we wanna see, and we're projecting on June 30th, we'll be plus, 1.3 or 10.1 or 0, or whatever the number is. I think that's what people would wanna see.
Sure, I can incorporate it on a sample balance in this.
Yeah, and that was a big talking point, especially a lot of some of the public sessions and everything else was, hey, we think this number's enough because we see an outlay of, and they were only looking at outlays, expenses. They weren't looking at revenues. 75 and 78, 86 is plenty, or 82 or 81. I mean, that's, and yeah, so I think projected, yeah, so thank you.
For the, employee number, is that current physical bodies employees or positions that are open or?
No, those are actually occupied positions, field positions as of February 20.
Don?
It's a good point to wag. You start to think about where there is a surplus, and you think about people that aren't in positions, or the positions that aren't filled, that are creating surplus, and where would that show? I think it's a good idea to be able to answer those questions in real time, and like you said, to be able to get people's distrust, addressed, through the information that was done. So I like this format. I think we'll keep things a little bit more peaceful across the district.
Yeah, I think for that plus minus projection, it helps me make a decision on something. Like if it's tight, I'm gonna be like, nah, we can't do that. And if it's not as tight, it's a need, but maybe you wait till the new fiscal year, maybe you do it now, like that, it just
helps inform your
when
decision.
you budget, you need to know how much is gonna be left at the end, right? So yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say, Ms. Watkins?
No, thank you for your feedback and
Thank you for this.
Thank you.
This is
Well
really
done.
easy to read. All right, phase 3 of lease.
That is me. You do have an executive summary in your packet. I'm gonna take a little time to talk the board through it. It starts with an overview, and this is just reviewing previously history of information with phase 3. So it was approved by the facilities committee. It brought the project list to you. You can see the actual project list in your packet. On January 2nd, it was considered by the board, and phase 3 was approved by this board 8-0. The board also considered the 2 citizen petitions that were in the community targeting the lease purchase agreement, and gave me some direction to hold off on engaging in a contract for phase 3 with the intention that we would get through the election, see those results, and then revisit the board's decision whether to move forward with phase 3 or not. That's the past history. We now have the election results and the articles. They're posted there again for you, Article 5 and Article 6. And right below them are the results from the voters on March 11th. The next page is actually the phase 3 project list, and I want to spend a little time on that. Most of the projects on that list are targeted over at Atkinson Academy. The reason for that decision was a fiscal one. We've got some ongoing work there now. So we've got people, crews, machines, materials kind of in place over there. So it was a matter of fiscal efficiency that way. Also included in phase 3 is HVAC controls beginning over at Sandown North. There's a credit from phase 2 that was specific to windows. We had the contract in place before the vendor went out to bid. When they went out to bid, they got a better price from the windows that they had originally anticipated. So we are carrying a $500,000 credit from phase 2 that we met, and we're going to apply to phase 3 to bring the total project to $2,589,655. Couple other pieces of information about the lease in general. If the board did go through and move forward with this phase, it would leave, generally speaking, about $10 million left of the $25 million in its total lease. I would anticipate that the annual payment for phase 3 would be around $200,000. That first payment of phase 3 would take place on July 14th of 2027. The interest rate from phase 1 was 4.08%. The interest rate for phase 2 was 4.86%. The most latest possibility we have for an interest rate for phase 3 would mirror that 4.86% now. That's something that we would need to move through with the bank and kind of lock anything like that in, but ballpark, that's where it would be. I also want to point out that the refinance or the lease itself will expire and be done by 2043. So as we're entering into new phases, the payment end date for all future phases, whether it's now or 10 years from now, is 2043. Okay. What this would yield for us in terms of a total lease payment in 2027 is about $1.2 million. There are remaining projects on the lease list that did not make it into phase 3 that I would want to review with you now. The phase 3 of the Belfry only was taken off the lease list and put in the CIP list. So that's not forthcoming. However, the projects that are still on the list to complete are the remaining roofs at the high school remaining HVAC units, the PAC controls. There was discussion about pausing on the PAC roof and the HVAC units for the PAC. Additional work in phase 3 would be the middle school remaining HVAC units, HVAC controls upgrade at Sandown, Pollard having HVAC upgrades, Pollard having control upgrades, Danville having an HVAC upgrade. And that would compile the last of the project lists on phase 3.
And those are what didn't make it into.
Those are, let me say that again. Those are remaining lists on the entire project lease list that are not in phase 3, but were planned from the beginning when the groups first started putting this together and wanted to map out the total work over the course of the $25 million. I'm gonna stop there in terms of phase 3 specifically and see if the board has any comments or questions that could help you make a decision tonight.
Jack and then Don.
So, I was actually up on the roof today, and one of the reasons I think you have all this work being done in Atkinson, kind of like at the high school, once you get the guys up on the roof, you wanna do all the work at the same time, right? So, 2 of the units that are being replaced are the same exact units that were being replaced at the high school. And then one of them, I'm gonna date myself here, who remembers Lost in Space with the robot, right? It looks just like that. It was a Mickey Mouse makeup as you go along. It's on the roof. That needs to be replaced. So I would like to, I don't know if we can do we have till the next meeting to make this decision? Because as I see this, in each phase, we can use up to $10 million. So some of those other things that you spoke to, I think we should consider because they'll get more expensive as time goes on. So I'm just throwing it out there.
So
Should we consider it, or do we have to move on this
we
tonight?
need to move on this today, and the reason that I say this is because we've already delayed it. The list has already been voted on and everything, so that's why we really need to do this today. We've got other things, we still have $10 million left over, so that's that, but the committee had already done the work, and this is the list that we've already.
And I was on the committee, right,
Yeah,
no,
so-
I get it.
Yeah, so.
I'm just saying, when I hear about those other things, is there something that would, I almost wanna hear that list again, Justin, for things for us to consider adding to the list. Again, in my mind, it's the sooner we move them, the more money we save, but
Yeah.
it's the pleasure of the board, just a suggestion.
Just a reminder that there are several ways that the HVAC systems impact education. It's better for the health of the kids and the teachers who work there. It increases their success rate by several percent. And that's fairly recent, publications that are demonstrating that. And then, if you think about it in terms of behaviors, it also has an impact. So you don't want to put off things that are working against you in trying to create successful schools.
As part of CIP, I know we were talking a lot about the Atkinson Belfry and how that work needed to be done. Articles of agreement stipulated that we do need to take care of it. It is outdated, needs repair. And we had voted, I believe unanimously, that work needed to be done. That pairs amazingly nicely with this list of working HVAC and roof work. And so again, I think, like Jack said, for cost efficiency, it just makes sense to be running these programs together.
Alright, so this is you wanna make a motion?
Is there,
Go ahead, Jack.
is there a flavor?
Did you not have this list when you organized everything about what needed to be done?
I just don't have it sitting in front of me
No,
today.
no, no,
'cause I
no,
didn't-
you misunderstand me. When you all were, when phase 3 was being created,
Yeah, we did,
so, okay.
sure.
That's what I'm saying, so it's like this isn't a first time hearing about it.
No,
Correct. Okay, no, that's what I'm saying, like, I'm not trying to do
No.
anything, but it's like you all.
again, I make a clear distinction. Committees come back to the board, then the board has the ability to give its will and its I mean, ultimately, we're the final decision makers. And I just, if no one wants to add anything to this, that's okay by me.
Bree, sorry. Bree and then Marion, sorry.
You haven't spoken yet. Point of order, please go.
So if this is approved tonight, when would the work start?
Dr. Martin, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair. So, this is all summer work at Atkinson, but the materials have to be ordered. We have 3 of the, I think there are 7 HVAC units required at Atkinson. We have 3 of them that are in stock and that are on reserve or in reserve. However, they're gonna begin ordering all of these materials, ASAP. They're actually a little bit behind there, because I'm pushing for Atkinson to be available the last 2 weeks of August for kindergarten camp. So we want things to be clean and orderly and safe for that period of time.
A lot of
Do you have
those,
another?
a lot of those items take 24-week lead time.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
Just one other question.
Yeah, go ahead, Marion.
I think you said the first payment wouldn't be due until 2027.
Correct, 2027, and that would be, I believe, 1.2 million payment is what was stated.
And is that when the work is completed, or why is it that far out?
In terms of the first, I
In
missed that.
in terms of the payment for, if we approve phase 3, the first payment will be about 1.2 million payable in 2027, I believe is what you had said.
Yes, because we've asked the bank to consolidate our payments around a single date. So we're going through phase 1, 2, and potentially building up to 7. We've got a single kind of point of contact. Maria, do you have anything more to add to that about why that date is in terms of when we enter?
No, that's the way any lease works. They give you 1 year before your first payment comes in. Usually any lease they give you, the payment is not due until a year after you sign your lease. Like Justin said, because this was done in a warrant article that authorized the district for 20 years, we have to comprise all the phases into the same schedule because they all have to be done by 2023, right? So all these payments, they give you 1 year before your first payment becomes due.
But it's still only 2025 right now. 2027 is 2 years out, right? Am I missing something?
No, you're not.
If we sign the lease, because the due date, the payment date for the lease is July 14. That's what all the schedules, well, the 2 schedules that we already have is that. So if we sign the lease, I'm sorry, I'm thinking as I speak because now I am confused. It's
okay, Mary.
I'm extremely tired, so let me think about it. So if we sign the lease now, next month, that will be April of 2025. The first payment will become due in July of
7.
2026.
Yeah,
Yes,
6.
you are,
Did I add too much time?
You added
You
another year.
You had me that earlier today, and my mistake, I am really sorry. I have been working.
Look at the new kid.
Yes, Marianne, I think you are correct, and thank you for the observation. I apologize.
Is there a
It was
teacher
my
with a gold
mistake. I
star?
give you the wrong information.
Bree and then Mark. You good?
So I think we're all taking a look and we've seen the things that are included on phase 3. We know and we've seen, thanks to Dean, some of the massive construction at Atkinson Academy. these things need to be replaced. It's now or later. Interest rates are favorable now, and it's gonna cost us so much more later, just with the cost of the dollar eroding plus getting people back up on the roofs. As such, I would like to make a motion to authorize contract with EEI for Phase 3 of the lease for a total of $2,589,655.
Got a motion by Mark, seconded by Dawn. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. One abstention. Okay. All right, cool. All right, next is policies. We have one for a second read and two for a first read. Is it gonna be Shauna or Sandy?
I can speak to the second read. I wasn't at the last policy
yeah, that's right,
committee
sorry.
meeting for the last 2 meetings, yeah, so, but policy FF, which is naming new facilities, is coming back for a second read with no changes from the previous board meeting.
Paul?
What was the reason from this nice little tiny sentence to these pages of stuff? Why is it like, that's insane, that's like California. Why is it so long now?
So the previous,
Yeah.
that's so cute. I love the way that you said that. So the previous policy was very vague at best, and really left it up to the board's discretion with no parameters and no real criteria or data related to it. And so prior board members and current board members had asked for the policy committee to do a deep dive into adding some parameters and criteria related to it. And so what we did was we looked at several school districts around this area that are have that particular policy and used those as a guide to model off of some of the feedback that we've gotten here from board members to create criteria related to it. So that's why it went from literally being 3 sentences to being about 5 or 6 paragraphs, because like I said, the previous policy was 2 sentences long.
If you want.
So
I like simple. It seems to me, I read through this whole thing, I'm like, this just says what that other thing said and do that.
But in legalese, right?
Yes, the school board will approve this, and then it says, the school board will approve this based on, did we like the people, did they do something? I don't know, I just like simple, this is too.
I'd like to make a motion for the next building after Paul. No. Paul, there was a lot of thoughtfulness that went into this,
Oh, it looks like it.
and what happened was, every time something came up, it created 2 more things that had to be addressed. Is that fair enough,
Yes.
Donna?
Yep.
And yeah, when it comes to this, I can tell you, my experience is people are very sensitive about how things are done and how things are not to be done. So we tried to capture all of that and address all of that in this.
Yeah, no, it's good, I just think we had a meeting to name a building after Mr. D, and we handled it. And there wasn't any follow-up.
I'm not disagreeing
3
with you.
pages to tell me, and one board member, and for good reason, first, her reaction was understandable.
Yeah.
Voted against it, and we made a sound decision without all that, to me. But that's all I'm saying, I mean, I'll get outvoted, but I'm just saying it.
And that was with a very, well-known person who had served long in this district and had met any criteria that you could possibly put together. But a lot of what people will bring forward will not be that, but they might be asking for the same thing. And I think it gives us things to pretty much guide people to say, does the candidate that I'm thinking of meet a standard? And then when we get it, we will still go through a similar process here that we went through with Tony D. Is to, say, of course, if it's a Tony D, if it's that type of a person.
See, fixed it, I'm good.
sorry, I wasn't so eloquent.
No, in that context, it becomes a better filter.
We also Tim Brown and I on the policy committee also communicated with other districts that have named facilities, and they shared their challenges related to that. So they have updated their policies and added criteria for certain circumstances too, so we were grateful for them to share that information with us as well.
No chance of getting anything named after me after reading this. I didn't do any of that stuff.
Maybe we'll do the
Not my
last.
fault, Paul.
Alright, anything else on the second read?
There's just one typo that I showed Shauna, she's gonna.
Sweet. Anything else on the second read is amended?
Make a
There's just
motion.
an I in there, that's all that needs to be removed.
Jack, you making a motion
Hang
to
on one
accept policy FF for a second read and adoption?
I am with all those words.
I will second it because Don talked me into it.
Motion made by Jack, seconded by Paul because Don turned him into it. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstain. All right, two more policies for first read, EBB, which is school safety, and EBCC, which I will let Sandy.
I'm happy to talk to those. So policy EBB is a new policy for us. We do not currently have this policy. It is required by law. That was a recent change based on state law. Formerly, there used to be a policy that spoke to emergency operations plans, but with some recent changes up in Concord, changes to law around the sports injury emergency action plans. Also, there should be, schools are required to have procedures to respond to serious or potentially life-threatening injuries sustained during other school-sponsored activities. We do currently have that policy. You may remember that we brought that to you. I believe that was actually last year. This policy is connected to that, and it is required by law. The verbiage is identical to the New Hampshire School Board Association sample policy. And we reviewed this at policy committee with no recommended changes. One thing that did come out of that is that we made a commitment. You'll notice that throughout the policy, there are multiple references to other policies. So part of our ongoing work on policy committee will be to cross-reference each of these other policies that are embedded in this one to make sure that those policies are also up to date in accordance with state law at this point. So right now we are bringing this, and we will likely bring back other policies should they need to be changed. So.
Okay. Any other questions on the first read policies? Shauna?
So we could potentially make a motion for a second read adoption of this to put us in compliance with the state requirements. And then the policy committee could bring back other policies that could be related to it.
If you chose to do that, yes.
Mark?
Are you comfortable doing so, not knowing, or I don't know, the other embedded reference policies, what they entail at all?
I know two of them that I'm comfortable with, but that's only because I've sat on policy for 3 years. But I understand. I think my concern is obviously we want to be in compliance, and we're not. And I also know how efficient the policy committee is and looking at all of those other things. So I imagine that those 1, 2, 3, 4 policies are already on the next agenda, I would imagine, to review. So. But I mean, we could go either way. Policy meets next week or the week after.
2 weeks from now.
2 weeks. So. It's just related to school safety, which is why I felt like it was actionable to be in compliance.
I think compliance matters, and I think we should do it. And if we ever want to bring it back to, adjust one particular thing, we can do it. So I would say, let's try to adopt the motion. I move that we adopt this in this meeting.
Which policy?
First and second.
Hold on, Mark.
Point of clarification, if I could, to your motion, Don. Will the policy committee be able to get back to us with those embedded policies so that we can then address it at our next meeting, should there be something that we're uncomfortable with? I just hate signing on for something and not knowing what the fine print of the aspects.
We could certainly do that. Those policies, I mean, I don't wanna misspeak, but my preliminary investigation is that those are also policies that are required by law. And so should we need to update those policies, the updates would likely be to the cross-referenced policies, not to this one,
Right.
which is currently up to date with regard to state law. So you follow my, right, yeah. But we could certainly, if it's the will of the board, you could hold off and we could bring that back to the next meeting. if the policy committee chooses to approve those for a first and second read, to move them directly here because you're anticipating and looking for that information.
I'm not, it's just signing your name to something and not reading the second page of the document.
Sure.
I've never finished the book. Let's get into compliance with this, with the commitment by policy committee that we will address this at the next meeting. Come back with, for the following meeting, something for first and second read. Unless something drastic happens, which I'm not anticipating.
Alright, so are we doing the motion for first, second adoption of EBB? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Dawn made the motion, looking for a second.
Don made the motion to accept policy EBB for first, second, and adoption. Do I have a second? Second by Jack.
Point of clarification?
Yeah.
That's with the understanding that the other policies will be reviewed. Can we add that into the minutes?
Yep.
Perfect.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on this policy?
I just have a quick question for
Yeah, sure.
Sandy.
Read it.
On page 1 of EBB.
Yeah.
The B lettering at the end says policy JLCJA, I believe. And then number 2, like a paragraph lower is in reference to JLIA. Are those two separate ones or are they supposed to be the same?
They are two separate policies.
They are.
They
Just
are,
wanted to clarify.
yes.
Thanks. Okay.
Alright, so motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstain. Alright, and then policy EBCC.
Okay, EBCC, we did or do currently have this policy. However, we're bringing it forward. Again, this is in alignment with sample language from the New Hampshire School Board Association. And that policy changed from a policy that specifically dealt with bomb threats only to include language connected to laws that were passed around the reporting of false alarms, active shooters, or other such threats, whether they be founded or again, false threats. So there are state laws that are connected to this. So the 2023, the state House amended RSA 644 to again include language around false reports about active shooters or the presence of explosive devices. And language that spoke to the presence of biological or chemical substances or other instances of catastrophe or emergency. This policy was then updated by the New Hampshire School Board Association to incorporate necessary language to make sure that we're in compliance with those updates that came out of the State House in 2023. So this updates our current policy. Everything that you see, again, is recommended from the New Hampshire School Boards Association and is in compliance with those laws that were updated a year and a half ago. So,
Any questions about policy EBCC? Bree.
Is this only in relation to physical harm or threats, or are mental or emotional addressed?
Say all.
I am not 100% positive. I believe that it's speaking to physical threats, but we can certainly look into that and bring that back to you, right? I would want to dig into the law. I believe that the way this is written, it speaks more to the potential for the physical threats on campus, whether it be an active shooter, bomb threat, a significant event of that nature, as opposed to something connected to mental health.
No, like my ask is because it says potential danger to safety or welfare. Well, that doesn't have to be physical.
Agreed.
Good questions. Any other questions about this policy? Do you want a motion to make it a first read?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Bree to accept policy EBCC for a first read. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mark. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstain, everybody is for it. All right. Firewall RFP.
Mr. Henderson,
Yes. Good evening.
nothing happening in the tech cybersecurity world, right?
Nothing at all. I don't know if you guys been watching the news, but district, I won't name them, but I will say they recently entered into a cooperative hockey program with us was compromised last week, and it's pretty major. I guess they have no phones, internet, or email for a couple weeks. So kind of leads us to this, which is there's an executive summary out there for my firewalls that so this is the results and recommendation on 7 firewalls to replace the aging ones we have at our schools and central office. The timing on this is a little important, and the timing isn't great coming here tonight with the budget situation and everything, but there's a federal E-rate program we're taking advantage of. And it is due by March 26th that we need to tell that program that we are indeed buying these in order to get compensated later on. So they compensate us up to 40%. It's always been 40%. I'll put up to just because you're never 100% sure. We do pay for these up front, and then we get reimbursed down the line for up to 40% of the cost of the firewalls. We had 5 bidders, and one of them we did have to kind of throw away because they did not come back with what we had asked. So the lowest qualifying bid was Wally Computer, which came in at $81,191. So that includes the physical hardware of 7 firewalls and a 1-year subscription to updates and maintenance and service on those as well.
Yeah, Mark.
In your mind, with these bids, were you asking for the same firewall protections? So you said the least expensive bid was Wally.
Yes.
He's offering the same products and protection. Wally is offering the same products protection as the other bids. So we're not,
Correct. As the other bids that you see there, other than Blue Spruce Technologies, which they quoted us lesser firewalls.
Okay, that's okay.
But
That was a clarifying question.
Everything else is apples to apples. Perfect. Exact same make and model for all the other 4. Yes.
Yeah, Marion, and then Bree, did you have something? Okay.
About how much is the 1-year subscription? Because presumably we have to pay that again next year.
Yeah, it's around it's gonna be around $15K a year.
So
It's a good question. It's upfront it's just the hardware first, and then the year to year will be about 15 for all the firewalls. Subject to change, of course, but that's about what we're at now.
So 15 per year for all the firewalls. Is that what you said?
Well, 15 for the yearly subscription updates and service on them, instant replacement. So if we have a firewall die, they will send us one overnight to replace it.
I guess I'm trying to understand the total amount for the bids that we have in here in the 80 grand range.
Yeah, in terms of, so there's 7 firewalls. I didn't break it down here. This is just the total, of course. But yeah, it is broken down in the individual quotes. So this is the firewall, and this is the subscription for 1 year for it. So it is itemized on the quotes.
Yep, Jack. Did you have something more?
Yeah, I'm about to expose how little I know about all this stuff. So like when we were looking at HVAC units, we kind of went with the name and because of the reputation based on a recommendation. Any difference that you know? I mean, if you work with these companies, is there a difference? Is there one that you think that from a service perspective outperforms another?
Yeah, so I should clarify, the bidders, if that's a distributor, right? They're selling the firewalls from the vendor. The vendor's providing the firewalls and providing the service. So that's all apples to apples. Yeah, we're gonna buy Sonic Wall firewalls. It's the name of the manufacturer. So good question.
Yeah, thank you.
The service is the same on all of them.
Thank you.
One last question here, and looking at telephone and network, that's a 2-year as opposed to 1.
Yeah, they quoted, good question. They actually quoted us a 2-year instead of the 1 year. Why, I'm not exactly sure, but if we write it down to 1 year, it would still be more than the 81,000.
Are there
81 plus 15 is 96.
Yeah, it'd be like,
Comes under
they
the
were
line.
like 96 if they came in at 1 year.
Okay, now I'm following. Thank you. Cool.
Alright.
I make a motion.
Hey, go Bree.
Say it how you want to for this bid with Wally.
So Bree's motioning to approve entering into a contract with Wally Computer Associates for district-wide network firewalls at $81,191.
Yes, I am.
Do I have a second?
Well said.
Mark seconded. Any other discussion on this?
Is this,
Go ahead.
would this be in the current year budget?
Yes.
Yeah, cause we're doing it now. And is the 40% rebate likely to happen this year too, or no?
That's very slim.
I thought so.
The reimbursement has been wildly different in terms of, I've done this a couple rounds now. They do eventually send you a check. I've gotten it, honestly, it's been I've seen 2 years, but we gotten it back. So I can't really speak to exactly
When the
what's-
unexpected
part of the
surplus money will come
surplus.
in, we don't know.
Hopefully next year.
But we're not crossing our fingers or holding our breath.
I'm
All
gonna
right,
hold
cool.
my breath.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's great. Guys, we really did it. Administrator's report.
All right, Dr. Martin's got a couple things to present out, and then I have a couple as well before I get to budget line item presentation for the board.
Thank you, Mr. Krieger and Madam Chair. So if you all remember, we did not receive our L-CHIP grant for the renovation of the Atkinson Belfry. That happened this fall. We were told perhaps they would have some leftover money in January, about $150,000 and from last year's projects, and we didn't make that round either. However, there was a woman who was on the selection committee for the grant, who also works for the state community preservation she's the community preservation coordinator, Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, et cetera, et cetera. And she took our information to her folks, and we've been awarded a Moose Plate grant, commonly known as Moose Plate, technically called, what is it technically called? Something or other, State of New Hampshire and the grantee, conservation grant, okay? I like Moose Plate better. Oh, funny, very funny, Don.
Only a few of us know who that is.
Yeah. So it's $20,000 and there are no strings attached to it. If the board accepts this evening, we'll ask the chair to make a few notations on the cover page of this. Off it will go tomorrow, then it will head off to the executive council meeting, the next meeting coming up first couple days of April, Attorney General, and then we'll be receiving our grant.
So there's no matching, there's no.
There's no nada. It is just very clean.
So I'll make a motion to accept that.
So you make a motion to accept the Moose grant?
I do. And I would appreciate if, I don't know who does this, maybe it's you, Katie, maybe it's you, Chuck, with a thank you to note to that lady who did that on
Yes,
behalf of the board.
absolutely. I mean, I certainly, Katie, whatever, if you instruct me to do it, I'll do it on behalf of the
I'll
board.
instruct Justin to instruct you to do it.
Okay, that's a plan.
Just as a note, we write to every single individual, company, vendor, organization that makes a donation to the Timberlane Regional School District
Good job.
directly. And we will continue to do that.
Good.
Alright, so Jack made the motion to accept the Moose grant in the grand total of $20,000. Who wants to, seconded by Bree? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Thanks, yeah, Moose Plate.
Alright, all those opposed, abstain, alright, cool, and so yes, for sure, thank you for getting that.
All right, if I may ask to pass this down to Katie, and then I can do a more extensive presentation, but I'll keep it brief. Bree, you'll be pleased to know that you are correct. The two bubblers, the nurse's office have not been turned back on since COVID. And they have no filtration system in them, so I've instructed our guys to remove them and replace them with a bottle filling station that is active and has a carbon filter. Every other bubbler station, is that a New England thing, bubbler? I don't know. Every other bubbler station in the at Danville is a bottle filling station, so that's all cool. I also have specific details from our buddy Blake. We have about $11,000 in get the let out products that are Kelly Salovich will be submitting to the state. So that's And that's, I believe is gonna be an ongoing grant opportunity for us. Very briefly, as we pull up those slides, each of our schools is slightly different in regards to where how water is filtered. Interestingly enough, the middle school does not have any water treatment. And the tests have not shown the need, comes right out of the well and into the building. There are no treatment tanks. The remaining schools in our district have treatment tanks where water is softened to soften out iron and minerals. Whitewater, our water service company, does domestic water treatment and sampling monthly. They're testing for arsenic, nitrate, volatile organic compounds, naturally occurring things, synthetic and organic, et cetera, et cetera. And per agreement on lead and copper, LCR, to meet the state requirements, that's tested 3 times a year. Collected by our guys and sent off to DES. Currently, we've added filters to faucets at the health office at Atkinson Academy. Also installed this water heater filtration as well at the middle school in the cooking room. 6 attached to each, one attached to each of 6 faucets. At the middle school, the health office reception sink has a filter. Danville Health Office also has a filter. Let me go back a little bit here.
Dr. Martin, do you care if he asks you a question real quick?
I'm so sorry.
No,
No,
not
no.
a problem, just because I will forget if I don't ask it now. So the filters that were added after the fact, were they added for need because of a testing
Yes.
result?
Yes.
Okay.
So the fixture was changed and a filter was installed.
Okay.
Additionally, because even though that fixture was changed, there still can be lead
Yep.
in solder, old
yep.
solder further down the line. We still have 26 sinks that are posted as hand washing only, not potable water for drinking, and they are largely the hand sinks in the hand washing sinks in the kitchens. They shouldn't be using those for drinking anyway.
Right.
And that really is the Reader's Digest version of my journey to become a chemical water expert.
Did Sandy have anything?
No, I do not. I'm
Alright.
referring this.
Did you?
Follow up if I could. So the high school or the middle school comes straight from the well?
Middle school comes straight from the
And
well.
that's tested 3 times a year and is never tested hot?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Not the water coming from the well. The fixtures, though.
Okay, so the water testing, I'm assuming the water testing is not done at a softener station. It's at the end source, a faucet, a bubbler.
It comes in, so at the middle school, the water comes in right into the building from the well. And what has tested, that's what is tested for the domestic water treatment, arsenic, nitrate, blah, 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 blah. But the fixtures that have shown lead or copper or both have been the spigot coming right from the fixture.
Okay, so 2 places of testing. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Okay,
One is, yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I wasn't picking up what you were putting down.
And I think the bow on the package is our children are safe, the water they're drinking is safe, we are in compliance with every state requirement of that nature, and we will continue to be.
All yours, Justin.
Oh, wait,
Excuse me, can I say one thing? Marianne, when I provided the information for the payment to our superintendent, instead of saying July of 27, it was fiscal year 27, because July of 26 is our fiscal year 27. So that's where the mistake came from. To make sure I said that, it's fiscal year 27, July 2026.
I don't see how that confused anyone.
My apologies. My mistake.
3 things before we get into this presentation here. The first is just specific to the lease. We talked about phase 3 tonight. I think it's a good opportunity to remind the board that there are 2 advantages to the lease that we need to continue to try to leverage in the future. One is the ability to prepay that lease that you cannot do on a bond, so that continues to be an option for the board. We'll continue to raise that as an option for us and an opportunity. The second thing is also that you can refinance through a lease. So we've got fairly competitive and low interest rates now, but I'm pushing the board to understand this is a 20-year commitment. If you looked at interest rates over the course of 20 years, there can be wild swings there. So the board will always have that opportunity to go back and revisit refinancing existing phases of the lease that it's operating under. So I'll continue to bring those two seeds here because they are opportunities for this group moving forward. I also wanted to update the board on the Power School cybersecurity incident that we brought to you before. I've heard from Mr. Henderson. We are working with a law firm called McDonald and Hopkins. This is going to be entirely 100% paid through Primex, who was our insurer, but we're entering into other school districts that were impacted to continue to try to press Power School for improvements and possible any things that our students and families and staff may need as we learn more about what was revealed in this attack. So we have that's in motion right now. It will be at no cost to the taxpayers of Timberlane. The last thing I wanted to make a comment on is that we have the 26th annual meeting and election calendar out now for the general public. The deliberative session is scheduled for Thursday, February 5th. I wanted to take this opportunity that I have had a great number of correspondence from members of our community that are interested in talking with the board this year about looking for a different day of the week to hold the deliberative session in terms of increasing access. So the conversation, most of those requests have looked at a Saturday. So in the future, I'll present those requests to you and we can talk those out. But it is the purview of the board to set the deliberative session, but it must be done in conjunction with towns who also have their own deliberative sessions. So there could be some opportunity for correspondence and further partnership with our towns in terms of if we can provide a space that more people will show up and participate, I think it would be beholden on us to consider that as an option for us moving forward. Any questions or comments on those three things before I move into the voted budget?
I want the board to reconsider, if you don't mind. The lease, like you said, these are, as it pertains to interest rates, kind of unstable times. And getting as much done with those favorable interest rates on the front end. And there are other advantages to getting as much work done as possible within that lease. So I just wanted to bring that up again because we could not move on some of those things you spoke about and we could find ourselves on the disadvantaged side of a number. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna sit in front of you here so we can talk through these things. I've got 8 or 9 slides to run through, and then I'm really encouraging tonight that the board has some robust conversation with one another and with my team in terms of the presentation. So we need to be talking about the fiscal 26 voted budget. To do that, we needed to establish, Abigail, you're missing the best part.
Shame.
Let her go, she has to study.
Run.
The first thing that we needed to do and make very clear to everybody is establishing what our target is. And this is how we do this. We began with a proposed budget that came through the budget committee. We are subtracting the reductions that happened in deliberative. That equals what our voted budget is. We go back to what the original proposed budget that made it through BudCom. We subtract the voted budget, and that dollar figure there, $6,626,151, is the amount of reduction that we are charged and required to meet. Few comments about that. That number, when coupled with the original proposed budget that came out of BudCom, is a grand total of about a 12% reduction from fiscal 25. Second thing I'd like to remark, and I've educated the board on this and I will continue to do so, and if you need more information from me, please ask. But if you needed the info of what constitutes the increase from fiscal 23 to fiscal 25, were the years where we had a 16% increase and a 4% increase, I again would want to give you that documentation so when constituents in your towns are asking you why did the budget increase during those periods, you've got very clear and definitive answers that were voted on by the voters about why those increases happened. Overall, we are looking to make reductions 12% from the last year voted budget. This was our process that we employed. We had 3 teams beginning the work, pre-deliberative and post-deliberative, and then again pre and post voting day. Those teams are my direct leadership team at the senior leadership here at the school. We had members of the school board, and we also have our group of principals and directors. All of those individuals working in those 3 teams, talking within their teams and across their teams, were busy with planning and preparation. We are here tonight on March 20th. This is the school board meeting. What I am looking to do tonight is to present that planning and preparation to you and to encourage the board to have robust and substantial conversations and discussion around it. And I'll be asking for a piece of direction when I conclude tonight about how to reach that target. The last part of the process I'd recommend is at the next meeting on April 3rd, I'd want to bring back specifics around what I'm going to unpack for you tonight so you could actually see the positions, the control codes, talk about impact, and I'd be looking for action from the board that night to approve a line item budget. Questions or comments about what I see as the process? Let's talk about the numbers. Looking at the large bucket of salaries and benefits, we've established that we believe we can identify $3,532,403 of reductions. This comprises 3 important pieces of information. The first is that it's a reduction of 36 positions. Those 36 positions can be broken into 3 categories. 4 of those positions we can achieve through attrition. These are people resigning or retiring. 22 of those positions are open and vacant, not occupied by a human being. 10 of those 30 positions would be reduction in force or a RIF. That would be the district removing the position and the human being that currently occupies it. Second big thing comprising of that number is it takes another risk toward the health insurance. So we are going to be taking $1 million reduction on the health insurance. If you remember through the BudCom process, we already took a risk there. We're going to increase that risk here. And it also just generally assumes attrition, generally all staff included year to year. We can safely say we're looking at $500,000.
Justin, do you want us to ask questions during this, or you want to get through it?
I'd like for it to get through it so you
Okay.
can see how all the numbers
Yep.
fit together, and then I'm happy to revisit slides as we go through.
Yep, thank you.
I want to make it really clear tonight that I am not going to be talking about specific positions or levels or discipline areas or departments. There are very stringent protocol for us about how we're going to need to communicate with those staff members. My deadline I was set is by next Friday. I do not think it's appropriate to have those discussions tonight, but to stay high level, this is what we've been able to identify in terms of the positions. 36 of them broken across those 3 parameters. Our principal and director group identified an additional $765,208. This is comprised of 172 discrete line item reductions in either building or departmental budgets. The bottom of the slide highlights some of the most meaningful ones for you. At the elementary school, their focus was mostly on classroom supplies, new and repaired equipment, eliminating or limiting the purchase of books, and professional development. At the middle school, they included everything the elementary school did, plus they're now shifting the cost of field trips to families and not providing that through the general fund of the school district. If you remember at the middle school level, we've invested a lot in terms of bringing our 6th graders to Camp Lincoln. Mr. Mensis has done a great job of extending that process into 7th grade and having them go out for a day, and then 8th grade having an organization come into the 8th grade. So team building along the lines, that has a cost. We're going to be passing that to families. At the high school level, they did everything the elementary school did: supplies, equipment, books, professional development, and they're going to be eliminating an additional CTE transportation that we had planned on providing to Pinkerton Academy in terms of bus transportation. Currently, right now, any of our students that do CTE programming at Pinkerton, they are required to drive themselves there. So there's a limiting factor. If I'm a student and I want to take a class and it's only offered at PA and I don't have a car, we're trying to meet that need here with bus transportation. We're not going to be able to do that moving in the next year. Athletics, looked at supplies, looked at classroom equipment for the health classes, and will do without a practice wrestling mat. Music is going to eliminate the instrument overhaul, not overall, that should say, the overhaul of instruments. They're going to forego purchasing new instruments that they currently don't have in their arsenal to try to expose students to different things. And they are also going to pass the cost of some of their specialized trips onto families and not be paying it 100% through the general fund. In Sandy's curriculum budget, it's a 43% total reduction. And I can let Sandy speak to anything specifically that she sees in there. The big thing for me was the supplies around new writing and social studies curriculum materials at the elementary level. Is there anything else that you'd like to highlight
Those are two
from that?
significant, already in phase one, in December, when we went through a similar process to reduce the budget by roughly $2 million. We had eliminated info access programs that spanned from K-8. That program was already eliminated in addition to a couple other smaller ones. This reduction also includes additional info access programming. We have reduced our textbook lines, so we would not be able to purchase textbooks next year, along with significant reductions in other book lines for replacement books to support classroom libraries and resources of that nature, along with reductions in our ability to bring in trainers to train our staff and professional development lines. We still have some money to be able to do that. It's just a significant reduction in what we typically would do. So,
thank you for those details. Next category is transportation as a large bucket. We're looking at a reduction of $900,000. This is comprising two pieces of information I want the board to understand. This assumes that our primary vendor, which is First Student Transportation, increases its hired number of drivers so we can run the special education routes at that rate versus having to go out to another vendor or a third vendor at sometimes a higher cost. And it also is taking some risk in the geographic routes of where those students are actually going to be living.
Is this all related to special education?
It's transportation all together, but these two pieces are critical for us, are specific to special education. We also have a large bucket of capital. Remember, the capital in this district is made up of the lease and a line in a budget for the capital improvement projects, or CIP. We're looking at a reduction of $1 million in that line. Three important things to consider here. One thing I would want the board to have complete understanding of is if this goes through as $1 million reduction, if you took what you'd still have in the CIP and you added the lease of the Delta, you can still fund all the projects that you had intended to fund next year in the lease and in the CIP plan. The lease, as I alluded to earlier, ends in 2043, so we can't go beyond that. In the projects, we are going to continue to encourage you over these phases when we're looking at the $10 million to do them in these small increments, because it gives the ability to prepay, because you have to prepay a phase in full. And it's also going to creep toward that 2 million mark. I don't see the bottom line is I see you having a lease delta for the next 4 years. It will get smaller if the board continues to enter into phases. But this year the delta is 1, next year the delta is 8, the year after it could be 6. So there's capital money there. Here's the summary and here's the direction. You've got your salary and benefits line, principals and directors, transportation and capital. You can see the grand total there of $6,197,611,000. If you remember at the beginning, we had a target that was a bit higher. Our variance right now in addition to all the things I've just presented for you, is still a window that we need to make of $428,000. The direction I would be seeking from the board tonight is before April 3rd and after this conversation, there are three primary ways I can go and find those reductions. I'm either gonna go one, look at additional positions. I'd like some input for the board about that. Two, I could look with Maria to take additional risk in lines. I'd like some input from the board about that. Or three, I can look at the capital line again, consider the lease over time, and maybe make some further reductions there. Those are what I see as the primary places to make up the rest of that variance. I think that's a summary shot of where we are. I would conclude with this. In making those decisions, we started with the premise that we were attempting to impact the least amount of human beings as possible. They are the primary assets of the school district. They are the ones that drive student achievement and all the other things that you hear about wonderfully at the Student, Staff, and Family Share. It's because of the staff in the district. We also had an obligation, I think, to look for future staffing efficiencies. So that's when you look at those position numbers, it's presented to you in that two kind of prong guise. I'm gonna stop. I think it's really important the board engages in conversation around these pieces. Sandy, Chris, Maria, or I are here to answer or provide any additional information that we can to help a robust conversation.
Bree, Mark, Dawn.
I'm just very hesitant on the transportation line item because we've had issues. We've had issues all year. We've had issues last year. We have been outsourcing for numerous weeks and months. And to say that they're gonna fully fund it and we're gonna have a net $1 million, I don't see that as a feasibility. And so as bad as it sounds, I think we need to find more money.
I think everyone understands this. If you want to decrease the transportation line, your variance is going to increase, and we're going to need to go and find it in those other three places.
I hate that we're at this place, and the suggestions you've come forward with are thought out amongst the teams, well thought out. There's risk involved. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where, in some ways, those who are struggling most and have children in the district are going to be disenfranchised disproportionately, paying to play, not being able to have their child drive to Binghamton and miss out on an opportunity to trade, to learn one of the trades, etc. A point of clarification regarding the capital money and the potential of the lease. Are we tied in or restricted with the type of projects that we can use future lease payments for?
So looking really closely at the article that the voters approved, 23? In 23, it references energy efficient and it also references building improvements.
Okay.
So we have a little leeway.
So, perfect.
One thing I was just wondering, I didn't hear anything about technology, I didn't hear anything about software, Sandy, and renewal of contracts or procurement that would have been budgeted for technology replacement, equipment that maybe could be used another year. What types of things did you look at with technology in mind? Because there's a lot of money put towards technology in this district.
Yes. One of the things we looked at was the Chromebook replacement. That's at a figure of about $150,000. We have a very unique situation here in Timberlane that is so advantageous to us that we made a decision not to move away from it. And it's that we are a year ahead of our Chromebook ordering and operations. Ken's done a great job since COVID around that. What it enables us to do, twofold, the distribution of them is a whole lot more efficient and cleaner for students and families because we have them at the end of the year versus the beginning of the year. And specifically for the SAT, our kids that take it in Timberlane are taking it on computers that are coming right out of the box and given to them versus something that they may have had for 2 or 3 years and is damaged, is not functioning properly. So because of those reasons, we decided to leave the computers within its current cycle and interrupt some other cycles. You saw band music, it interrupted cycles that way. So yes, that was a big portion that we considered. We also considered the website revamp, which is I believe at a $30,000 marker right now. And then we made a collective decision of, we've talked a lot in this group about communicating more effectively with the public, and a lot of comments about things are tough to find on the web. So a strategic decision there that's, I believe, money well spent if we're gonna be able to communicate with the general public more effectively. So we kept those two things protected.
Could I just address the software piece?
Sure.
So when I was referencing info resources that were eliminated, those would be considered software programs and software licenses. So at the elementary and middle level, from the district budget, we have removed every resource with the exception of iReady that I presented on at the last meeting. Schools may have other isolated licenses. But some of the numbers that you were looking at where individual elementary schools, the middle school, the high school, some of their monies came from other licenses. They may have maintained some for specific programs connected to science. We are maintaining mystery science, that's in a different line, but that will be maintained. Other than that, and a few library programs, we have removed other ones that are not currently available free of charge to the district.
Okay, I was still a few more things, but you.
I just wanted, so like UFly, is that gone or is that?
UFly would not be considered a software online resource, so that is not gone. That's an instructional resource that, yes.
I'm wondering about the, when you talk about the RIFs, probably nothing coming out of the open poetry things that would impact it, and the attrition losses. How does that factor into class size? We saw Lucy's presentation of the class sizes. It can't help. Did you see the impact of that?
We see the impact specifically for each of those positions, and feel comfortable that we are still well within the class size policy.
I would just say that in general, I proponent of building and improving facilities, but I'd love to see us not have to RIF people. We're talking about 10 positions district-wide. I'd like to see some out-of-the-box opportunities. I don't know if you can save money by having some longer school days and days that you don't open the school to save on, resources like heat and electricity, or, things that you might want to do to, reduce money but not impact careers and quality of education in the district. So you might have to do some work on the school calendar. Maybe you don't go to school as many times in the coldest months, and you add on to the school year when it's less money to heat and run a building or things like that. But I would like to see us, try to protect the quality of learning as a first priority.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of things here to unpack. First thing is, so we're not gonna be able to run it just like we did last year for the 81 million?
Is that a rhetorical question?
Yes. Okay.
I'll leave it.
I just couldn't help myself. Thank you for the work. Regarding the employees, I know we're all seasoned here and we understand we can't get into the details. But I would say, for me, what's important is protecting the core educational aspects, the core education, the math, the English, the history, the social studies. Those to me are the things that need to be protected the most. When you talked about taking risk with health insurance, you've already taken some risk. So like for me to be able to make a good decision, I have to know what that percentage of risk already is and what we're gonna add on to that to know how exposed we actually are. Fair enough?
Can I share that with you now?
Yeah.
Our highest health insurance cost over the last few years in a given year was $10.5 million. Okay. We've got a lot of uncertainty heading into this next year because we have about 30% of our staff that are gonna be electing a new plan. We don't know where they're gonna lead. In the proposed budget that went through BudCom, I believe was at about at $12.5 million for health insurance. We're talking about eliminating 17.5 positions that the board already did. I've got 36 more in front of you this evening. Maybe less people are taking health insurance next year. We split that 2 million delta in half. We feel comfortable about that risk.
Then to piggyback on what Mark had said, I hate disenfranchising kids. That's not what we're in the business to do. I could see us doing less of something off the CIP, because the last thing I want to do is stop a kid from going to Camp Lincoln, because that is an incredible experience. And I just think relative to some of the thing, instead of doing 100 or 200 linear feet of doing something, we do half of it. That would be more than enough, I think, without guessing, to help these kids with in the music and the athletics, which I think is crucial to their overall learning. You're talking about.
Sorry, just a comment on field trips for everybody. Specific to the middle school trips, we are gonna continue to budget a small portion of money. If there are students and families that are financially unable to attend, we think it is so fundamental to the middle school philosophy and getting them there, that we will support those students and families to get there. But it's gonna be an expectation of families that they are gonna pick up the lion's share of that cost.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of cost analysis to be being done with the lease, the delta versus what any potential savings would be to expedite things along those lines, but that's an exercise not for here. Here's what I would say. I would really love to have a workshop or two on this. I think it's really difficult for the board. Ultimately, we're responsible for the fiduciary responsibilities of the district, and it's our responsibility and we're held accountable, and rightfully so. So I would rather us all be in the room going down what we need to go down instead of bopping back and forth. I think it would be a more efficient process. That's just me. So I would really like to do that.
In regards to the health insurance risk and gambling on transportation, like Bree, I'm uncomfortable with that, but I'm more uncomfortable with not taking the risk. And just looking at, I'll say, the transportation at $900,000. That's approximately, dirty math, 9, 10, 11 positions. I would be kicking myself in the keister if we elected not to take that risk in the insurance, riffed people, affected them, affected the kids, affected the community, and then there's this whole rebuild thing, and perhaps we don't need that 900K. I would rather find ourselves in a position to squeeze every penny we can, supply every service to our kids that we can, and then worst case scenario, insurance comes up higher, transportation costs are higher, then we go back to the taxpayers, and at that stage say, okay, this is where the rubber hits the road, we have run out of options. Is it worth it, for the communities to penny up?
And Mark, just a comment on that, you're exactly right. The first process we would be if we are running short in anything across the budget is to look across the budget and see if there's money in other areas that we can reallocate. And if we can't do that, or that's an impossible task, then yes, we are going back to the tax-based voters and we're holding a special meeting, and with real clear reasons for why we're there and what we're asking for.
Yeah, I'm looking at the debacle of this past budget that kind of got us into this, all the unexpected revenue that we did not expect at the beginning. I would hate to do something that we cannot reverse. And so I don't like the risk. It makes me a little nauseous, but I think it's worth, I don't see a better option.
Before Jack or anyone who's already spoken, is anyone who's not spoken have any questions at this time? Go ahead.
I have one question just on what you said about the CTE transportation.
Yes.
Are students currently being bused to Pinkerton?
No, what we'd be looking to do is revert to what we're how we are currently operating. This is something we wanted to add in next year as an added resource for kids to get there, but it would simply be going back to current practice.
And if I may, Superintendent, Madam Chair, our students have an option to go to either Salem or Pinkerton. We bus to Salem. this would have been the addition to the Pinkerton bus.
Is the choice based on the programs that are available at the
That's
two
correct.
schools?
They are offered, they don't have duplicate programs.
So, are we still funding the transportation that when the kids drive for their vehicles, for their gas and whatnot?
Yes,
It's still in
yes.
there.
So to your point, Justin, looking across the broad spectrum of all our expenditures, when I say workshop, that's what I would like to do. The other question I have for you, if we looked into, oh God, she's gonna kill me, Sandy. I know we have a number of tools and instruments we use to measure the kids, which, you know, are there those that we are paying for, instead of having 3 or 4, we can, no.
Again, we've eliminated, what we presented eliminates everything with the exception of free programs or the iReady platform that I presented on.
And that was more in
Unless
line
they are
with the
school,
question.
right, unless they are school specific, grade specific, funded for schools, but at the district level,
Mhm.
we've already gone through that
Okay.
process.
Thank you.
Yes.
Shauna?
I have 2 questions about transportation. So my first question is, have we already worked with the bus company to engage in possible route reduction based off of the number of students who regularly take the bus? In other words,
Thank
you
you
know,
for
I hear
rephrasing.
from taxpayers and constituents that when buses drive by them, they're half empty. So they're making the assumption that the buses are not full. So if we have, I don't know, just ballpark, 100 buses, have we worked with the bus company to maybe condense routes to make it so that potentially, you know, if a bus typically does 10 roads, now they're doing 13 or 14, is there room on buses to be able to do that? Have we looked at that?
Dr. Martin may have some things to add, but I'm gonna start here. The risk for transportation around the geographic routes are not in the regular education transportation routes. Those buses are running geographically the way they typically should. The reason that they don't have the ridership they could, and I'll give you the middle school, for example, in the morning, I think by last count, Mitch had 280 cars come through. 774 kids go to that school. So there are a lot more families driving their child to school. If we extended those general education routes, the geographic routes, not knowing and not being able to track day to day who's gonna get driven in and who's not, we gotta plan for the max. Those routes would extend beyond what would be a reasonable time. The geographic challenge comes with the special education routes. Where do those students live? In 4 towns, not just one. Into which school are they going out of the district? That is the real challenge. We need to support First Student in that type of routing.
Very briefly, First Student did a whole reassessment of their regular ed routes at the beginning of this school year. So that's already been looked at. But also remember, when there are hazards, the stops are closer together. And we have to make some exceptions as well along the way. We try to be very, very conservative about that, but so I have to tell you that this is a familiar story from Manchester with people reporting at board meetings that the bus is half empty, but you don't know where that bus is in its route.
Correct.
Right.
I'm aware of that.
Right,
I'm
right,
just-
and
yeah.
as well as what Mr. Krieger spoke of, you know, could be a very bad weather day and I decide to take my children to school as opposed to leaving them at the bus stop, so yes.
And obviously, transportation for all students, regardless of regular education and special education, is part of a free and appropriate public education.
Yes,
So
it
we are
is.
required by law to provide that, so I figured I would just ask that question. My second question is late buses. Late buses are technically not required by law. They're an additional service that this district provides to students and families for students that are able to stay after school, get extra help, meet with teachers, join clubs. And while I would hate to reduce the amount of opportunities our kids can be in buildings and have connections to our adults in their school community, is there consideration, my understanding is right now the late bus runs 3 days a week? Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays? is there a potential opportunity to reduce that?
We looked at that. The dollar figure may not be what you think it is. And the advantage for our kids and families, because we're a regional school district, it's not something that I would be prepared to be looking at. It provides kids the ability to participate after school where otherwise they would not be able to. It's remarkable. It's not a service necessarily that's across the state of New Hampshire. And it's not a high dollar figure. It would not make a substantial dent in that transportation number.
That's what I was hoping you would say.
It's
Thank
worth
you.
the buck.
Thank you.
Before Jack speaks, is there anybody else that's not had a chance to speak that wants to speak? Okay, Jack.
Just two quick things on the busing. Are we saying that we might be able to estimate how many kids aren't taking the bus and then reduce the number of buses?
No, I'm saying that would be impossible.
Right, right, cause I'm sitting here saying, what happens if an emergency or, right, okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. And then we gotta be very careful, we're down to one bus company. Right? We're down to one bus company. At some point in time, they look at their numbers. We don't wanna be sitting here with no bus companies. Yeah, I think that's a fair consideration.
We have an obligation to get our kids to school.
Go down.
Just going back to special education for a minute, we had quite a few students who had to get services outside of the district or bring people in specifically to do things that we didn't have the personnel to do. In the cuts to special education, do you see that, are reductions actually going to make us more dependent on those outside services, or is that a budget, piece that's gonna be hard to make up for?
Yeah. Don, are you referring to like, does it for out of district students?
Well,
Or are you talking
I'm
about like contracted service
Contracted
providers?
services.
Gotcha. This provides what we feel is like a middle road that allows us to continue to try to hire some of these people at a far less rate. I'm not.
Is this one of those risks that you're talking about?
Yeah.
A risk in terms of providing for special education students
Well, or affording it.
or affording it.
I know we have to provide it,
Yes.
but I see that as one, I'd have to go back to the town.
We're attempting to thread the needle between our open and vacant positions and hiring and what we have in the contracted service line. If you notice here in this presentation, there's no reduction to contracted services. And there's a reason for that.
And there's a hope with the proposed reductions that there will be a little bit of wiggle room so that if we were able to hire somebody internally at a half to third the cost of out services, those monies could be used to offset the contracted services line and fill it with our own person, and then perhaps have the flexibility to have additional revenue to then look for a second person, correct?
100%. Cause
I
I think
think
as you've heard me say before, like I am not ready to hold up the white flag and just surrender all those positions and just assume we're gonna have to contract for them all. That is financially not a healthy decision.
Go ahead, Paul.
So we've underspent that contracted services line for the past couple of years, correct?
Overspent.
Overspent.
Yeah.
The budget, whatever, what was the budget this year?
No, we did have saving, we had savings the last couple of years.
Yeah. So I thought, so I'm saying that might be a risk that we're, right? I mean, like, if I'm just, whatever it is, 1.2 million on average last 2 years. If anybody's listening, I made that number up. Well, let's say that was the number.
Yeah.
I'd say, okay, well, that's a trend, and underspend it again, maybe. If we don't, we have a meeting, like.
Yeah. One of the things that I think I want the board to perhaps understand is if we're doing a better job identifying kids, providing the services and the cost of them are going to increase because we're going to be looking to identify more of them. So if our processes are improving in that way, we may be seeing needs that we were not seeing a year or two ago that we didn't have the contract for. So does that make sense about how that could play into the end financial number?
Yes, I have a follow-up just to that too.
Yes, please.
Why don't we contract our own people on 1099? I mean, if we're paying Gray Services or whoever, $120 an hour for whatever they do.
Because it's
I
under
guarantee you, if we were contracting people as private contractors at $75 an hour out of college or wherever, they'd be like, yep, I'll go there. Have we ever thought about just doing our own contracted services with individuals, like SLPs or whatever?
Right now, those are recognized members of a collective bargaining agreement.
Individual
There's
contributors, contractors?
recognition clauses in each of our CBAs
Mhm.
that outlines who are members of those collective bargaining
Oh, they put
agreements.
that in there so we couldn't do that.
Correct.
Got it.
So we need to make it more attractive for people to want to work at Timberlane and close that gap between private and public.
Right, got it. I was not aware of that, thank you.
Don.
Grant, excuse me.
No, go ahead.
Did grant money help us with contracted services this past year from, say, wasn't it like hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Yeah, so in terms of the most significant grant money would be through IDEA. It's close to $900,000, and yes, we fund positions out of that dollar figure.
Is that still available to us in the same?
It's always an unknown, but yes, historically, we've been at that marker year to year.
Allocations annually are not typically released. Preliminary allocations for the upcoming year until May, sometimes June. Not IDEA, but some of the title grants, we typically don't even get those in until July. So we're not on the same cycle as the operating budget with regard to knowing what we will or will not be able to fund through those.
And one last thing through that, Don, if we had positions that were grant funded, that were in that list for attrition or for riffing, we are working to then find another position that we're gonna replace and fund through the grant. So we can still make a reduction and we can still not impact the taxpayer because we're still seeking grant funds for that position. So we've done that background work as well to limit that number of RIF that you see.
Okay. So at the end of the day, this sucks no matter what we do. I want to thank you and your team for all that you've done to identifying and the fact that it's not just this just sucks all around. But ultimately, as a board, we have to figure out what areas we want them to look to make further reductions because we're roughly $400,000 shy. I don't think anybody wants to see any more positions cut by any means. I don't want to cut bodies at all. So Maria, are there additional risk areas that we could look at that you'd be comfortable with moving? And then two, I think CIP should be, because we've got the lease. Go ahead, Maria.
Make annotation that the lease is a equipment lease purchase agreement.
The what,
So
sorry?
The lease is an equipment lease purchase agreement.
Yep.
The reason why we can do the roofs is because the roof is a work attached to the equipment that we are buying under the lease. So we cannot use this lease for remodeling one of our schools. This is an equipment lease purchase agreement and it's attached to savings that we can realize with the equipment that we buy. So I just wanna make
Nope, that's fine.
that clear.
But the true CIP is for improvement projects, so stuff that's not broke, but stuff that we want to improve, such as the bathrooms.
Right.
So
One
if
is
it's not,
both.
so right now, if it's not broke, we're not fixing it. I'd rather keep bodies. So is the will of the board to look for them in things that are not gonna do our damnedest to keep positions, I guess is what I'm asking.
I'd like to see more risk taken in places.
Okay.
I think we need time to chew on this a little bit.
Unfortunately, we don't
need to
have
give them
time.
direction.
We have to give them direction. We don't have
We can still
time.
chew on it, it's not.
So again, I think we should be having a workshop and going across the broad spectrum of things, right across the board, and everyone shaking their head, this really falls on the board.
It does. We have to give them direction.
And
If I may,
Yep, Mark.
what I suggest we do is give direction, but also look through this. And we will have the opportunity, if we identify certain areas to direct and ferret out and ask questions. And I know you and I have spoken offline and, had some thoughts, just trying to figure out how we're gonna make chicken soup out of chicken stock, yeah. And so we will have the opportunity to do that, but broad picture, we kind of need to.
I understand the time sensitivity of this for specific reasons. But I also think we need to do I mean, I would love to see we get the what do they call it, the invoices every week, right? Love to rifle through that and say, okay, you know what, is this subscription really necessary? Is this really necessary? Is, you look at the org chart, you look at some of the contractors we have in here, how much of that is, in other words, this is a very deep dive to do some of the things you guys are suggesting we wanna do. You gotta find it from somewhere else. I would, and I said, how passionate I am about the CIP, but if it means kids not going to Camp Lincoln, we gotta, one takes a priority over the other. But we need to do it in its totality, not piecemeal it.
I get you, I understand, if we had 6 months, I'd be right on board. I think that's what the leadership team has done, and the principals and the athletic directors and the coaches and technology. They've gone through and they know more what books are needed, what software is needed than you and I will going through it in 4 or 5 months.
That's not what
They're
I'm
just-
talking about.
Okay, I misread that, sorry.
So, but at the end of the day, we have to give direction where we want this to come from. Again, just because we give this direction tonight, again, we can continue to work and everything, but there is a deadline and
What is the deadline? If you don't mind me asking, it's April 15th, isn't it?
no,
We had
no.
We had set up this process because we wanted to present to the board, and Jack, to your point, to then stop and allow people to go away and digest and think about what was presented tonight. Follow up with Maria and I over the next 2 weeks with specific questions to get direction, so then on April 3rd, when I come back, I'm gonna unpack what's in these numbers for you. You will see the positions, we can talk about the impact, we can talk about the names of the people, get very specific about what it is, and then ask the board to make the decision on April 3rd.
And just to be clear, the reason why I suggest a workshop is so we don't have two sidebars going here, and me calling Justin every 15 minutes and say, hey, how about that, right? Or calling Maria and say, hey, how about that? You'd love if I never called you again, I know you would. That's what I'm trying to prevent. I'm trying to consolidate and make this process as efficient as possible. And I think all of us collectively do that better in that format. But if that's not the will of the board, then that's okay.
I applaud what you've done. I know it's gruesome work, because what you're doing everything has a cost to it in terms of our students and our the district. So as it unfolds, I guess, I'd just be hopeful that we can find ways to save a few positions and we figure it over.
So there's nothing wrong with doing a workshop later. Well, again, we do have 2 weeks, but right now the board needs to give direction to them of where the area is currently to look at. So is the board looking to do more risk and the CIP and try to save as many positions as possible? Is that what the direction we wanna go?
Yes. That's how I'm inclined.
Alright, so what I'm hearing is that April 3rd, when I come back, we're gonna meet our target. And it is going to get to that point by taking additional risk and looking at CIP lines and not bringing any additional positions forward to reduce.
Yes. Yep, check.
How about looking at ways of, you did take some stuff, some of the things that directly affect children out, like the Camp Lincoln stuff. I'd like to find a way of flipping some of that around, finding like whatever you find. I'd like to kind of put some of those things back into, and I know, I appreciate what I'm asking for is not an easy thing to do because you're trying to go in the other direction, right? But it's about the kids.
Yep, okay. Do you have your direction?
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
Is there anything else in your administrator's report?
I do not.
I also want to answer the question, the time that we have, is we have to report this data to the Division of Revenue Administration, the voted budget by line item by March 31st.
Thank you.
I have to do it by line item,
What's
so
today's date?
So I only have, it's next
Friday.
Monday.
Lovely.
So I now only have 5 days to go line item by line item, change the proposed budget in our system, then do all the things that I have to do to report to the DRA, which the state of New Hampshire, nothing is easier, easy to report. So I would appreciate, I only have 5 days and it's me, it's
So-
nobody else.
So quick question, how many, this is like an anomaly at Timberlane where the disparity between what was ended up in the budget and what was originally recommended is such
12%.
12%. So how many other districts are faced with this? So this exercise is rather unusual, right? Or you said a lot?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
up here around the state.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of
Yeah.
the news.
Alright,
Alright,
District struggling with it.
did you have anything else with your
I do not,
administration?
thank you.
Alright,
thanks, Justin.
personnel report, we do have one professional retirement.
Make a
Donna?
motion to accept the professional retirement of Kathleen Lonergan, out of district coordinator, central office,
Yeah,
and
motion.
thank her for her service to Timberlane.
Got a motion by Shauna, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Bree, any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstain, okay. Committee reports, before we get into committee reports, in your packet, we've been provided a current committee assignment that we have, we've got a couple of openings. But again, it's that time of year, if you wish to stay on your committee, if you wanna change your committee, if you're, whatever you wanna do, email me. And then it will be me and Mark and Justin will kind of get together, we'll start putting some things together, and then at the next board meeting, we'll vote on it and we'll move on. Any questions about this so far? All right, now I will start with Jack for committee reports. Okay, Don? Budget committee, I believe they have their reorg meeting next Thursday.
Yes,
Okay.
week from tonight.
All right, cool. Shauna?
Wellness committee has a meeting in April, second week of April.
I'd just like to clarify for the, I don't know how many time, I am not the co-chair for CIP and Jack is.
It's okay. It's all right, man.
And I have no updates.
I have no updates.
Also too, until the new committee assignments are done, you need to continue, the people that are currently on those committees, please continue to go to the committees meetings until changed further. Any other business at this time? Jack?
Actually, I'm not. First, I'd like to say, for the last couple of years, I hear from coaches, I hear from students, I hear from everyone. The parents just aren't the same as it used to be when your kids were in blah, 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 blah. And during the course of the election, I get to meet a lot of people in my community. And I have renewed faith in what goes on in our communities. I met a group of people that are well-spoken, articulate, caring, and sacrificed a ton of time and effort into our kids. So, well, yeah, I didn't wanna put the, but I can't thank you, and regardless of what side of any political issue you fall on, to put in that kind of time and energy, because they all have jobs, they're all professionals, they have tons of kids, just like some of you guys do, so to put that energy and time in it, I have renewed faith in what's going on in the district, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, I got a few things.
Okay.
I had a chance today, and I wanna thank Dr. Martin and Justin for meeting me at the academy. I got a chance to, Mark and I had a question about the belfry. And I got to get up into the bowels of the beast. I was surprised I fit through the hole to get in the attic, but I
Surprised you got
did.
down.
Dr. Martin was on the wrong side of all of that, but I fit through. It's amazing the work. It's amazing the work that was being done up there. I saw things that I never thought I'd see. Structurally, it's coming along. No, but it's from a structural standpoint, even the dome is gonna be redone. That's a steel dome at the very cap of it all. So thank you to everyone to addressing those questions. One thing that I did pick up is there's no asbestos abatement to be done at the academy because it was pre-asbestos. Asbestos didn't exist when it didn't exist when they built the building, so that's good news. Then the other question I have, and this could be for either Sandy or Dr. Martin. Obviously, there've been some executive orders in Washington that may affect us. And I was just wondering, I mean, two specifically is around Title IX. I mean, do we have a direction in which we have to go? So we're, we did the first one, so we're compliant, and now are we out of compliance again?
Well, I'll take a stab at what I read today. I can't speak to Title IX, but I can speak to the two entitlement grants that folks have been worried a lot about, that being Title I and IDEA. Title I being the grant we received for students with low socioeconomic status. And then, of course, IDEA for students with disabilities. It is my understanding, based on what I have read today, that whatever's happening in Washington will not impact students' ability to access those two grants. Beyond that, we have not received any technical advisories from the New Hampshire Department of Education that I'm aware of.
And Title IX, we are coordinating, our Title IX coordinator is in regular communication with our legal counsel. Currently, we have reverted to the 2024 updates to Title IX. And we are regularly awaiting updates as to how we should
You hear
move
this
forward.
on the news, and sitting where I sit, you wonder if you
Yes.
have to do anything. So, thank you.
We're, just to answer the question, we're in regular communication with legal counsel, because the state's Department of Ed, as Dr. Martin said, typically they would put together executive summaries or technical advisories for school districts. Very little has come out with regard to the two questions that you just asked. So more to come once we become aware. But right now we're deferring to what our lawyers are advising us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other business? Shauna?
I just wanted to get some information and feedback from board members about potentially continuing with school board office hours.
Oh, yeah.
We did have some folks that participated in that felt it was beneficial. Obviously, we would need everyone to, potentially find an additional time in your schedule to potentially do that, but I'm going to just bring it up here tonight for thought and consideration, and then I'll touch base with everybody individually to see if that's something that this board thinks we can schedule out. And what it looks like and what the schedule is, big fat question mark. It's just a matter of, do you think it's meaningful and helpful, and are you able to participate, and then we can go from there.
I think it's good to continue because
I would like
it makes
to.
it makes us more accessible to the public
I
other than
agree.
just email and whatever, so. Yeah. Okay, cool. Any other?
Just to add to that, Shauna, the feedback that I get from community members is that they would like more opportunities to engage with board members, whether it is outside of a school board meeting. So if that's one of those things that can happen, I think it's advantageous.
Any other business? Do we have any other delegates and individuals that wish to speak? Okay. Fortunately, wait, did you? You can? Yeah.
Oh, I know it's late, sorry, do I need to fill this out, or?
Well, speak and then do it, it's
late.
fine, just announce your name, please.
Okay, Chris started Atkinson, wasn't gonna speak, and then obviously things changed.
That's okay.
First, Mr. Krieger, thank you for all that work there. It all sucks, clearly, I'll just quote what was said. I think two things that I'm kind of leaving here with. One, we can never put a huge dent into the cuts there, but one thing I didn't see there was the opposite of the expense was revenue. Are there any outside the box ways for the district to try to pull in more revenue to decrease the delta between where you're at now and where we need to get to? It's not gonna be millions, right? But is there a increased fees on renting the pack increase, or could we rent out facilities more so in the district? The Timberlane, the high school has a lot of land, I think, that's not being used a little bit. I don't know what that means, but maybe we can find revenue sources there. But there might be ways to do that. The other thing I was gonna look for, maybe when this process is done, if maybe through a right to know or if it gets released, is on the principals and directors cuts, a couple of those make me nervous, especially like the bus situation for the music and for some of the field trips, because it is gonna affect the people who cannot afford that the most. And I know there's a lot of community members, some in this room right now, that do wanna step forward and help out where we can. The other part I'm thinking through is the professional development, whether it's either reduced or eliminated. I don't know what that looks like, but generally in any industry, if you're not developing your people, the good ones are gonna go choose to develop elsewhere. So I think that could exacerbate this whole problem. So I don't know what those things cost. They may be astronomical, but if there's somehow at the end of this, it says, oh, well, professional development costs X. There might be people, there's a lot of people in our district who could say, I'd love to find a way to support our teachers, to step up, raise money, fundraise, et cetera. I think that would be something that would be interesting to see at the end of all this process. But just kind of figuring out the opposite of the expense, like how do we pull more in?
Thank you. Yeah. And if anybody in the public, we'll just state that if anybody has ideas for that, we are always open to that. We're looking to get creative because we don't want to take away opportunities from our kids and we don't want to lose staff.
So we don't have any ideas that have poured in since this budget passed? I thought we were supposed to get some in.
I don't
No,
know,
never
did-
mind.
Yeah.
I said casino.
A casino?
Casino. Any other delegates or individuals that wish to speak?
The wetlands.
Thank you for filling that out. Thank you. All right, we do have to go into a non-public, Shauna.
Make a motion to go into non-public under 91-A:3, subparagraph C.
I have a motion by Shauna, do I have a second?
Yes.
Second by
Thanks,
Mark.
everyone. Thank you.
Can I get a roll call vote?
Yep, Jack Sapia,
Yes.
Doug Woodward, Katie Newsom,
Yes.
Mark Sherwood,
Yes.
Charlotte Anthony,
Yes.
Marie Woodward, Howard Payne, and Mary Ann Springer.
All right, we will not be back other than just to seal the minutes. Everybody